If you want to pick up your own Maxnomics Smite chair, you can go and get over to needforseat.com. In order to pick one of those up for yourself, make sure you use code SMITEMAX. Get a nice little discount towards it. Pick yourself up one of your own little chairs and sit comfortable. Not just like the pros who are here in the studio, not just like so many of you at home, but just so the way you can live in comfort, live up, stay focused, and get ready. We got the Jade Dragons and the Solar Scarabs as our next match. And yeah, you guessed it, it's another in-studio match. Not just one today, but two for our lovely doubleheader here on Saturday. We just got to watch the Atlantis Leviathans and the Olympus Bolts square off here, and now we get to have another two teams here in studio.
So we've got the Jade Dragons, and we've got the Dragon Slayers, and they're playing against each other in studio, like 10 players at the same time. Is that what you're telling me right now?
Correct. We've got all 10 of them here in the studio, just over there. In fact, we're going to have one of them in here in just a moment for a little bit of an interview. But yeah, I'm not teasing you at all. I'm not pulling your leg. I'm not pulling any of your legs at home. Let's take a look at the schedule and see what the weekend ahead has in store. Not just for the big game we've got going on now. We'll also have the Scarabs again tomorrow. Not in studio this time. They'll be playing the Valhalla Valkyries tomorrow. The Camelot Kings and the Warriors will close out the weekend. Let's take a look at the standings. After a win by the Atlantis Leviathans, they continue to maintain their top status, 4-0 for them, and because of the loss with the Olympus Bolts, they dropped to 3-2. They still sit third seed, but that's still waiting for the Dragons and the Kings to get another game under their belts to see where they will fall in line on the standings.
Jade Dragons currently sitting at 2-1, Solar Scarabs at 0-3, so Solar Scarabs looking to play a little bit of spoiler here up against the Jade Dragons as they try to keep up their climb throughout the standings. I've got high expectations of this one. There's a reason that the Solar Scarabs have been called the Jade Dragon Slayers, or just the Dragon Slayers for short, in the past. And the Solar Scarabs have been looking a little bit better here inside of Phase 3, so maybe they get to live up to their title here today.
The Scarabs are definitely a team that love playing up to their competition. They've even brought two of these top teams to a game number 3. The Tartarus Titans and the the Camelot Kings have both struggled up against this squad, and it's absolutely no surprise. Talking a little bit specifically about their mid laner, Baronic, he has really done a lot of stepping up in the last, I would even say Phase 2 towards the latter half. He was really starting to step up on some of these more critical picks like the Tiamat, but specifically he's had gods like the Giannis banned away from him. Even the Morgan has been a hot topic for the Solar Scarabs on the ban department.
Yeah, as the year has gone on, Baronic has done a very good job of kind of expanding his god pool and kind of making himself a multi-headed threat. It used to just be, okay, if he plays Giannis, he might bop us, and if he's not playing Giannis, he's probably not bopping us. Now, he's got a couple more gods in the back pocket, the Tiamat namely, even some of those more standard mages. The Morgan Le Fay comes to mind as well. The Morgan as well, too. I mean, both Morgans have been pretty well piloted by this guy. But Baronic might be the sole reason that I discredit the Smite Pro subreddit, right? I feel like those guys really do not like Baronic, but he has been stepping up for his team in such a large way recently that I feel like you just can't put hate on his name.
I mean, even sitting at a 2.77 on the KDA, that doesn't seem really all that big when you compare it to something like Paul, who has 9 points some odd. But even still, with the struggle with the struggle that the Scarabs have had over the course of the years, Baronic looking strong with his team. We've actually got him standing by for a pregame interview. So let's throw it over to him and Dave to kind of talk a little bit.
That's right. Baronic standing by with me for the pregame interview. Baronic, thanks for taking the time. Talk to me a little bit. Look, you guys go 3 games against the Kings, 3 games against the Titans. Top half of the league as far as finishing with those two teams in the second phase. What's the Scarabs' take on the way that this phase has started? You go 3 games against some really good teams. What are your takeaways?
I think as a team, we're actually very proud of our recent performances. I think we're all just itching to walk away with a win, though. At this point, it's super, super good results. In-game results. Obviously, walking away with losses never feels good, but there's so many good points that we can take away from every single set we played. So, I mean, that's all you can ask for, really.
I mean, and you guys are pretty vocal on Twitter about a lot of that after those games. The feeling is that a couple of those losses, namely the 3-game sets, may be a little self-inflicted. Do you feel like those losses are wins that maybe got away from you, sets that you should have won?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, not including the Warrior set. I mean, the Warrior set was kind of a none of us showed up that day.
Have an
but
off game. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like you said, the Kings and what was our other set? The Titans, right? I mean, 2 of the teams that are performing the best right now. I feel
champions, right?
So, I mean, yeah, like I said, man, we have a lot of promise.
Improvement. Yeah, and specifically about this matchup. Kind of final thoughts here from you. The meta's changed. You plus Scream up against Hurrywind plus Sanford Soccer and kind of that mid 2v2. What do you expect over there on that other side, maybe specifically out of Sanford Soccer?
I mean, throughout the year, we've actually been very, very good against Sam and Hurry, me and Scream. So
and the Dragons in general. Yep.
Yeah, I think we're really confident, and I'm super confident in Lucas or Scream to,
sure,
kind of run away with this new meta.
No worries. Yeah. Expecting a fun one here from you today, Baronic. Thanks for your time. We'll go back to the desk to keep this thing going.
Thank you so much. I think it's important there that he said he's proud of what his team has accomplished so far. I mean, coming out of phase number 2, only coming with 2 wins, and one of those being up against the Valkyries when, the Valkyries, it's one of those things, getting wins on the Valkyries, not something that, most teams are kind of unheard of here, but the Solar Scares have really been stepping up specifically here in the latter half of phase 2 and really so much here in phase 3, taking game 3s against some of these top teams who in times past they've really been struggling to even get those 2 games against.
I will not take away from the accomplishments of the Solar Scarabs so far here in Phase 3. To make no qualms about it, they have looked like a significantly improved team, and they are going to need that here up against the Jade Dragons. Hurrywind has been having himself a great year so far. Sanford Soccer obviously is one of the players that, the entirety of the SPL community has hailed as gonna be real good after 8.9, right? He's one of the dudes who was very adverse to playing the Osirises and the Erlang Shens at the earlier parts of Phase 2. Kind of generally started to pick it up a little bit more so once playoffs started to roll around, and now here in 8.9, I'm expecting him to really start to hit his pace. The things like the Mercury, the Hun bots are all gods. They're going to fit his play style incredibly well, and the Jade Dragons are looking like the Jade Dragons of old, like the Phase 1 Jade Dragons, the one that won the playoffs, right? The one that used to go by the name Ghost Gaming. These guys are looking that dominant right now. So the Solar Scarabs in a position where, sure, you've improved, but are you able to step up against the best here? Sure, they took the Tartarus Titans to 3. We'll see what they can do against the Dragons.
Sam and Hurry have a lot riding here, trying to take out the Solar Scares, and the Scares have a lot to try and answer back to this mid lane and jungle combo. That mid 2v2 has been one of the most lethal it has been in the entirety of Phase 2 and 3 as of right now. Now that the Assassins are back in, now that Erlang Shen has been so prevalent amongst the Warriors, it took so long, it feels, for Erlang Shen to kind of come up with the Warrior jungles. It felt like it was, just Gilgamesh Osiris, and then somebody sneaks in and says, oh, hey, Erlang Shen might be kind of good. And because that Erlang Shen, we've been seeing first bloods in mid lane faster than ever.
Yeah, we have, but I don't think we will see too much Erlang Shen in this set in particular. We know that Scream loves those standard assassins. That is true of Sanford Soccer as well. We might. I'm not going to take away from the potential of Erlang Shen coming out because, again, I think that god is incredibly strong right now, as you allude to, with Mannequin Scepter in its current state. Erlang Shen is going to stay good. That's how dominant his damage is inside of the early game. But as far as late game scaling goes, and this is not exclusive to Erlang Shen, this goes for all the previously incredibly strong warrior jungles, Gilgamesh and Osiris, they scale much less than some of these standard assassins. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Scream bring out something like the Thor that we saw towards the tail end of 8.8, or even the Bastet that we know he loves. And Sanford Soccer, anything on the Assassin tab is free game with this guy. He was playing it before it was good, and now that it is good, expect him to continue to do so.
The Assassin tab is Sam's oyster at this point. He can grab just about anything, and I don't think anybody out there, whether it be on his team or anybody watching at home, is going to be upset with it. He brought out the Pele last week up against the Leviathans, looked really strong in that second game. Maybe not so much in the third, but that's just because Zapman was able to get some sick Uller plays. We'll probably see some Uller, I imagine. He's been a top priority for the Hunters, and I think with that game, that might have been equal time. There was something on the waiting room where Uller was only played 11 times up until Phase 3, and in week number 1, he got 7 games played. So maybe with this game or maybe with this set, we'll see Uller's performance, or at least appearances in games, kind of double here for the remainder of this year.
We've already seen him twice today, right?
Yeah.
I think Uller is really in a spot now that he can start to flourish thanks to some of those changes towards Transcendence and the Maze Tree, kind of turning Uller into a tried and true just mage. He just deals that kind of ability damage, and then if you are able to survive those abilities, he still is a hunter, still applies like 400 damage in auto attack with these penetration builds. So I wouldn't be too surprised to see Uller locked in, and it is worth noting the guy you're seeing right on the screen, Stewart, in the SCC level, actually had a little bit of nickname. They called him the Stooler because he was locking it in every week.
We got to see a strong performance out of it last week. Can we see that same repeat performance out of the Scarabs? Let's jump right into picks and bans for game number 1 between the Jade Dragons and the Solar Scarabs, the Dragons and the former Dragon Slayers. We'll see if they can live up to that name here today. Again, this is another in-studio match. Yeah, we had one. Now we're back here for a second one. Well, unfortunately, that's going to be the only other one that we get for the weekend. But hey, we still have plenty more games to go throughout the remainder of the phase. A win here, very important for both of these teams. Jade Dragons want to try and hold as close to that second seed in the standings as they can go. Solar Scarabs want to try and get their first win on the board. While this phase itself, phase 3, very important because we're going to Worlds. This first half of phase 3 is mostly just important to try and get that seeding so you can start working your way in towards the group stages. Top 2 teams pick the other team's bracket, and if the Solar Scarabs are going to try and sit here and play spoiler, that might be one that you want to throw in somebody else's division.
So if the Jade Dragons are able to secure themselves a set win here, that would put them at 3-1 in the standings. If the Solar Scarabs win, it'll put them at 1-3. So that is why we are saying that they're looking to play the spoiler here. They don't really have a lot of wins under the belt as of right now, but that surely could change as the phase rolls on. So far, bans looking largely pretty standard, barring that Ares from the Solar Scarabs. Sir Kent, Terra, and Odin banned out by the Jade Dragons, and the Solar Scarabs take out Artio, Geb, and Ares. This leaves a lot on the table. Tiamat comes to mind. Yamoja's out there as well. Every single priority jungler is also available. Ull, also available out there, and that's exactly where the Jade Dragon is going to head to with their very first selection. Uller locked in, and this does secretly have slight flex potential. We know that a couple of the mid laners in the SPL, namely Zeros, has alluded to the fact that maybe we start seeing some of these ability hunters in mid. I think that Hurrywin's certainly one capable of playing that, but for the most part, this god is dual lane bound.
And not just a pick here for the Jade Dragons, but it kind of acts as a pseudo ban because of how much Stewart has been performing well on this god. So taking it away from him, giving it in somebody's comfortable hands, such as Panda Cat or Hurrywin, as you may have alluded to. On the other side of the board, with the Emoja open, instead, the Solar Scarabs want to focus on getting themselves a Khepri for inbound in that support role, and both of the premier mages are up, but the Solar Scarabs aren't willing to bite for one just yet. They're maybe waiting to see what the Jade Dragons pick up here and maybe just take the leftovers. It's a Khepri Izanami to round out the dual lane for the Scarabs.
The Jade Dragons might have slight kill potential inside of the dual lane if that is where this Uller is headed, but as far as clear is concerned, the Solar Scarabs have it, and they have it in spades. Khepri and Izanami both going to be dealing with these minion waves very quickly, which could open the door for the Scarabs to look towards purple or red buff invades in the early game, depending on which jungler they select. So we'll see where the Jade Dragons go here. If they don't take a support in this pick phase, I think it is very likely we see a ton more banned out by the Solar Scarabs, but it really is only Sylvanas is that new guard that is still available.
Yeah, Sylvanas is really, as you highlighted, the only one who's still kind of creeping up. Though, with the Terror banned away, that leaves a lot still open on the table. I mean, there was 5 frontliners actually banned in the first phase. It'll be a Susano locked in by the Jade Dragons, going over for Sam with this Raijin locked in by the Dragons as well. That is going to guarantee that the Uller is going to be going over to the duo lane. So we do have the backliners, I should say, here for the Jade Dragons, if you want to call Susano a backline. I mean, he's going to be in their backline, potentially at least. Now the Solar Scarabs have to answer their own question of what do they want to lock in. They're looking at a Soul who's not really that Tiamat. Tiamat just kind of got overlooked here.
Seems like Soul might be the option just because of how much survivability she has into a god like Susano, right? If you're getting pulled out by Susano at any point of the game, I don't care if you're Tiamat at level 5 or anything like that, you're probably getting shut down pretty quickly. To separate, going to be a great tool to make sure that that doesn't happen to you throughout the early, and as well as giving you another auto attacker means that the Solar Scarabs are going to have great objective potential, be it permanent structures inside of the towers or the Phoenixes, or neutral objectives like the Gold Fury, Fire Giant, Pyromancer. They're all going to get shredded incredibly quickly, but already with this top 3 selection from the Jade Dragons, doesn't it just scream aggression top to bottom? Ull's going to be leaping in aggressively. Susano gets involved the second he takes over to level 5. And Raijin, once he gets that Thunder Crash available to him, likely going to use that aggressively, and his scaling doesn't hurt.
And Susano Raijin is just screaming a level 2, if not at least a level 3 potential kill in mid lane, or really any lane that the Susano goes towards. Second bans come through for the Solar Scarabs. Umoja somehow made it all the way through all of these. It was a Khepri pick by the Solar Scarab, so hey, they'll get the OG Solar Scarab himself, and a Sylvanas taken away to boot. So a lot of frontline. We see 5 Guardian bans by the Solar Scarabs. Now, namely, one of those is more geared towards the solo lane in that RTO. And with the Terra ban by the Jade Dragons, that removes 6 Guardians off the board, a 7th one when you take the Khepri pick. So the Jade Dragons going to be digging a little bit deeper here in the God pool, especially with the Serket now taken away. That gets rid of one of those assassin supports. Even the Odin has some of that flexibility. So Jade Dragons, they're going to be kind of looking a little bit deeper to maybe grab that pick there for PBM.
Yeah, we could see PBM go to some of his comfort picks. Fenrir comes to mind. Fafnir as well is something he could take his eyes towards as well. So I'm sure Polar Bear Michael not feeling too bad about where he is currently standing. But I like this hover from the Solar Scarabs. It's something that Scream piloted in 8.8, and I don't think it was so good in 8.8. Thor, though, in 8.9 is incredibly strong. Get that Jotuns online very quickly. His damage output is very nice considering the entirety of the Mace Tree is eating a buff here or there, be it additional power or reduced costs in some of these items. So Thor now with global presence can help out, make sure that the soul is able to scale well into the late game and get the opportunity to find some of that farm. And if you are playing aggressively on Thor, well, you at least got a safety net thanks to the Scarab's blessing.
Yeah, it's going to be really a question of where do the level 5s go for both these junglers. I mean, Scream has the pick of the litter with this Thor. That semi-global ultimate allows him to dunk really any side of the map from a very safe distance. He can jump into either of the pits, whether it be Fire Giant or Gold Fury, and kind of dip his toes into any of those lanes. On the other side of the board, Achilles locked in here for the Jade Dragons, and looking at a Zhang Kui, is this going to be an Achilles support coming out of Polar Bear Mike here?
Yeah, I think so.
It
fits his play style, man. He loves that aggressive level of play. He wants to be able to get in your face, apply that damage, apply those stuns. It does operate very similarly to Fenrir support. You're just generally another assassin that happens to be a little bit tankier. I think maybe the more so interesting talking point is that Zhang Kui, likely headed for the soul lane. We've seen it from FineOK a couple of times in the past, didn't have a whole lot of success. But now, I think inside of this draft, the team fight of the Jade Dragons is spooky, man. This is a very hard to deal with draft as Hercules gets locked in, likely headed for solo on the side of the Scarabs.
Yeah, Hercules is a nice solid frontliner. Before, we would talk a little bit more about the flexibility of Hercules, but with a Khepri already locked for the Solar Scarabs, that one is most definitely going the way of the solo lane. So Scream going to be on his Thor. They've got some nice early pressure across the board with the Thor. The Hercules, very well known for how much aggression he can show in that solo lane. I mean, as soon as you hit level 2, you pick somebody up, you push him back, and if you can get him in tower, well, you're pretty much guaranteeing a kill, or at least if you can target some of those minions against them. Going against a Zhang Kui, going to be kind of a mixed bag here for this Zhang Kui. We've seen a little bit of the I saw what you did with the Spooky. You're talking about Spooky, and he's got the Ghost, so it's a double
nice
one there. So see, we got the double going here. Getting ready for Spooky season. Speaking of, we got spooky colors back behind us. The green and the green and the orange thrown there. We got the
everything's on.
We got the little pumpkin thing going on here. But yeah, getting ready to go into game number 1 here. Kind of talking a little bit more about these drafts. You know, where's the Jade Dragons' main focus going to be, kind of in these early stages?
Likely around the dual lane and mid. I think Zhang Kui is going to spend the majority of this game just kind of free farming inside of the lane. And then once you do get to that late game phase, the Jade Dragons do have a great 5-on-5 engagement. But between Raijin and Uul as the carries of the mid and dual lane, that's a lot of kill pressure that could come from anywhere. So essentially, Sanford Soccer has the pick of the litter wherever he wants to go. Whereas the Solar Scarabs, they're going to try their hardest to establish pressure throughout the dual lane, or even potentially the soul lane if Hercules does hit the ground running. And if they do establish pressure inside of the dual lane, that opens up the door for a lot of invades thanks to the constant pressure of the looming threat of a Thor global.
I gotta say, man, 8.9 has been a pleasure to watch. Not with just the Assassins coming back, but some of the other picks. I mean, we're getting an Achilles support here by the Jade Dragons. They've been doing some kind of more out there and interesting things. We got to see a Cthulhu come out of them last week and then immediately banned away from them anytime after that because nobody wants to deal with what that god is able to do, what FineOK specifically was able to do with it. So the Jade Dragons, again, with the more interesting composition, the Achilles out here, will that be enough for them against the Solar Scarabs? Well, that's up for them to decide in the game. This Khepri going to kind of play spoiler himself here, because if you do commit too much onto one person, that Khepri is good at pulling him right back out of danger.
Yeah, I can't speak enough about how annoying it is to play against Khepri, man. Scarab's Blessing just acting as that revive not only can stop some of these kills from happening, but also just allows you to play a little bit more haphazardly with your own lives.
Will it be the Dragons or the Dragon Slayers coming out on top in game number 1? Let's take it to Dolson and Gore to find out.
Not often we get back-to-back studio matchups, but that's what we've got here today. Dolson, Gore, and Doug bringing you the action for Jade Dragons versus Solar Scarabs. When we talked to Baranek prior to the matchup, Gore, in the pregame interview, look, this is a team that brought it to 3 games against a couple of the teams ranked in the top half of the league, the Phase 2 champion Tartarus Titans, the Camelot Kings, who have been looking great recently. Some of those losses, the Scarabs team feel self-inflicted. Games they should have won, sets they should have won, and then simple mistakes that are changeable kind of kept them out of the winning column here so far. Now a team that the Scarabs team has beaten a couple of times in the past. An opportunity to get a win here in Phase 3.
Yeah, I believe last time they matched up, the Dragons were able to get that, but the other times that they've played, this has been, surprisingly, a Scarabs win every single time, and I think that honestly gives me a lot of, at least precedence here. They've been looking better.
Oh, my God!
Like, the damage, though, on the Stewart. He's going to make it out of there, but just barely.
I mean, I'm surprised, Gore, but it's Achilles and Uller, right? So, you know, if that flurry of damage between an early game Warrior and Panda Cat on Uller connects, well, what just happened to Stewart will probably happen a little bit more often.
And honestly, I actually really like so one thing Mike does really well is play Warriors as a Guardian, right, or in the support role. But I love the Achilles pickup more and more just because of the fact that it's such a good way to help deal with the Capri on the other side. Having that execute available to you goes through the res, helps deal with it. And to me,
good point.
You know, your options are like, what, Thanatos in the jungle, your Achilles either as solo, but he's not going to be in a lot of the matchups versus the Capri until late game. Then eventually you can start to impact it. A lot of where the executes aren't present on the map that often. And this just feels like something that really, to me, reads as, okay, if we can't beat it, adapt to it. Yep. Figure out what it is that can deal with the Capri and go to a classic matchup for it. But give it to Mike instead. I'm really interested in seeing how this is handled.
Oh, my God. It happens again. Stewart was at like 90% HP and now down to about 10% HP after using the beads. And that last bit of extra damage brought to you by Panda Cat and his willingness to stay aggressive. There is an abduct here on the Panda, but Stewart's got to realize he stepped too far forward here, especially without beads. You're in some serious trouble. A little bit of spice, though, Gore and picks and bans, even outside of the Achilles and Uller lane that the Jade Dragons have drafted here. Same for Soccer on the Susano.
Yeah.
Interesting, but I think really fine okay on Zhonghui solo. Is where my mind goes as far as the hottest of spice drafted into this one. Something that we've seen, once or twice, middling success, but maybe an opportunity here in a game where you want to be W-keying with the rest of your team to make a good impact.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch specifically the Susano, how it handles. The Dragons as a whole, this composition as it transitions into late game is going to be interesting to watch because they don't necessarily have any standard frontliners in any roles, but Zhang Hui can get relatively tanky. We know Achilles can, and I anticipate Mike building him as such.
Oh, no.
But they're going to be able to get a lot of early game pressure.
Oh, no. It's a stun onto Baronic. Hurrywind is here as well. Raiju will take on the end of it, and it's first blood over to the Jade Dragons, and that one, simple. Not a lot of hype to cast around that. That's PBM rotating out of lane, hitting the stun, and Hurrywind waiting out the disapparate. First blood over the Jade Dragons and this Raijin in mid.
Yeah, good timing on the disapparate, but Baronic doesn't have a lot of mana to work with. Has to just kind of shimmy his way out of there. There's only so far you can go when Achilles and a Raijin are looking at. Yeah, and Finok's
he's had no problems in this lane.
He's controlling this. I think they just invaded the blue buff as well, so they're even giving Solo or Troll a lot of trouble in that lane. Realistically, it just means that we're seeing the Dragons play their typical early game. They're pretty controlling at this point.
I think Fino just went back for the first time and still had 3 health pots and a mixed potion that he sold off for 2 wards and a full Pythags piece. So the laning phase already great for Fino K, top of the XP charts. He's about 100 XP per minute over SOT right now. So small numbers in the beginning, 1 level lead over his solo lane counterpart, but that could add up. Hurrywind Thunder crashes out. Left him susceptible to a root and then an abduct from inbound, but still has the beads and likely feeling just fine here in this matchup. So now we've reached that level 5, level 6 mark in the jungle, Gore. Sanford Soccer clearly can make some stuff happen, but this is where you look for Scream to start to control this late early game and early mid game.
I anticipate a few Typhoons from Sam, but Anvil of Dawn is just like the biggest game changer. Anytime you see, like in the mid camps right now where the Thor is, but if he's in the Fire Giant pit, if he's in the Gold Fury pit, anywhere that Thor can travel, it's big.
Stewart just getting run down here. Execute, yes please. And Polar Bear Mike will take it to go. Stewart down for the first time this game. Anvil of Dawn from Scream finds its way into the mid lane, and it's a breath of fresh air for the Solar Scarabs. The jungler making something happen And Scream now nabs his first, and a momentary respite for Baronic here in the mid lane. You get an assist, you get a level lead over Hurrywind, and you can farm up safely for another 15, 20 seconds.
And honestly, Soul soon enough is going to be not necessarily untouchable, but a lot more survivable, right? You're going to have your own self-sustain. You're going to have Disapparate still. The beads are on cooldown, though, for both Baronic and Scream. Actually, and Stewart. We'll go ahead and mention him because that opens up opportunities. Sam, who has really good CC to pull people back into the engagement. Mike, that has the stun readily available. Those two roaming together, whether it's a 3v3 in mid or a gank over to the duo lane, those are very good targets to be able to pick up if you're the Dragon Seer. And you've amassed about 1,000 gold lead just through the passive farm you've been able to pick up. I think that this is a really good spot for them to be in to continue this level of aggression.
Yeah, you're going to need more of the same, though, if you're the Solar Scarabs. You're going to need more of the same from Scream specifically. Great engage there in the mid. Hurrywind, with the Taiko drums and the beads, can kind of pick and choose how you want to counter out that initial engagement from Scream. With the Anvil of Dawn down here, Scream's going to have to walk into mid if he wants to make something happen. There's the root, there's the abduct. Hurrywind Thunder crashes away, not before taking half of his HP. And still a decent opportunity here, Gore. No more health pots in the back pocket of Hurrywind right now, depending on how he plays this. Baronic getting his ult back up, Scream getting his ult back up, and Anvil of Dawn for Scream. This is a moment where Hurrywind probably has to play extra safe.
Yeah, with those beads down and how fast his health bar just dropped, you've got to be very careful with every engage. Good news is that nobody seems to be getting too aggressive right now on the Scarabs. So you're still getting a little bit of farm. They had to back up and get their buffs. But yeah, SOT might be in trouble.
Oh, and he just used Driving Strike. That's going to be a pullback through from Sanford Soccer. Stun, execute for Mike. Never hits its targets because Sanford Soccer already dealt the killing blow. And the seeds were sown over here in the solo lane for the longest time. Fine, okay. Dominating this lane is a bit of an aggressive statement, but he's felt in control of this one. Gold Fury started up now by the Solar Scarab, sensing the rotation, the pressure of the Jade Dragons on right. Panda Cat, will he steal it away? No is the answer. Inbound takes an axe, though. And a little flurry of damage from Panda Cat follows its way in. That's a great call from the Solar Scarabs, mitigating the loss on right.
I love that so much. Not only do you see 3 people on right and immediately that call comes out, but they drop 3 ults on right as well. So, even if a rotation somehow makes it to the Gold Fury, you've got a distinct ult advantage coming into just the 3-on-3 or 4-on-4, whoever happens to rotate over there. On top of that, Panda admittedly makes me sweat a little bit, but you're able to secure this. That really does help kind of float the boat. Like, it was not necessarily sinking for the Scarabs just yet, but you can see, even with a Gold Fury, that they have a decent lead still on the Dragons. And so they needed something like that to help make sure that this early game didn't get too out of hand too fast.
Yeah, not shrinking, but there was a hole in the hull that maybe needed a cork to find its way in there, and the Solar Scarabs able to plug things up and keep things right where they are. So it's been quiet from Scream after that initial engagement in the mid lane, but still early enough in the game where it sometimes or might only just take one. But Sanford Soccer is going to rotate back here to solo lane, blink through, pull back onto SOT, and this health bar is melting. My goodness, Final K in range to deal the last bit of damage. And I didn't see a Driving Strike in there, Gore. That must have been on cooldown, and SOT falls for the second time. And now, this Zhong Kui with Pythag's piece and a little lifesteal after it. We'll see how the rest of the build looks, but decent damage numbers coming out of the solo lane here for the Dragons.
And not only just decent damage, but you could see that without having to drop Sam's ult, without having to have Polar Bear Mike.
Or are you going to go down behind Panda Cat, who will leap away? Actually return more damage onto Scream than Scream was even close to being able to deal onto Panda. And that's going to be in here behind as well. There are beads for Panda, who dodges out the root, stun onto inbound, leap away. This guy is annoying to play against on this pick. Panda Cat's feeling himself early in game 1.
And that is about as essential Uller as you could get right now. Panda Cat gets a good leap to disengage and make sure Scream can't hit anything, and now Mike gets to get aggressive in mid.
He's going to have enough damage for the execute. No, not timed to perfection. Oh no, Hurrywind! He's not the one tanking up the tower though, so he will walk away. PBM had the damage there. Thunder crash out, so Scream cannot follow up. You nearly get the kill on a Baronic. You at least get the beads, but now Scream getting towered out. Typhoon deals the killing blow, and Scream be watching from the grave for the next 25 seconds. Nearly a good play for the Dragons. Turns into a great one just a few moments later.
Look, I don't want to give him a lot of trouble because that was still good from Sam, but I'm sure there's one angle in there that can catch Scream and still hit Baronic and maybe find a double kill. Look, just say.
Yeah, Sam, come on, buddy. Come on.
It's beautiful either way. They get a kill where they set themselves forward. Veronica's forced to fall back, although they might be able to get aggressive. I like where Inbound's head is at. Again, just the aggression that's been coming down from the Scarabs.
I was hoping he would steal it away with
despite the
damage.
The deficit. Yeah, a little bit of Khepri damage.
That's right. We saw
that's never enough.
There was a Khepri. It was enough on a FG steal like 2 years ago, wasn't it?
Oh my God, you're right.
It was you and I were on Paladins, and I remember we were in the green room, and the casters back there just went nuts because there was a Khepri tick that stole away an FG. So every once in a while, it's enough gore. It's not often, but every once in a while. Right now, everything from the Jade Dragons feels like it's more than enough. Sam.
Can you imagine losing your Fire Giant to a Khepri 2?
What's more aggravating, losing it to a Khepri 2 or a Fafnir Hammer?
Damn, that hammer is real easy to block, though.
That's what I'm saying.
You should not be letting that thing through.
Maybe similar levels of aggravating. The Solar Scarabs probably feeling aggravated with the way that this early game has gone. Sanford Soccer at 2:02 on this Susana was looked fantastic, and I think Mike deserves some love here as well. Mike with a similar kill participation on the Achilles, and think about how we got there. Right, early on in this lane, Mike and Panda Cat. They're combining for just gross amounts of damage. And then the simplest rotation of Mike's life just gets in behind Baronic, sets up a kill there in mid, and the dominoes have just kind of kept falling from that point on. And so Achilles support, probably not something we're going to see every single game, but at least here in the early game, Mike has shown us that it works.
And again, it's making me interested to see how this transitions into a late game team fight. He went for that sledge early. Now he's got the Thebe stacking.
So he got a little damage.
He's gonna have a little bit of damage to help with something like that. I mean, Scream's half health.
Yeah, that's an ult from Scream into the mid lane. Doesn't hit the stun. Execute from Mike. No good on the read. A rare whiff from PBM, who's pushed back beneath the tower. You can't live from this one. Not when the pull is there. An SOT adds a kill. But there are 3 ultimates down here in the mid lane and 1 dead PBM. Stewart had used his Dark Portal onto Panda Cat a moment ago. And so in the same breath that I'm praising Mike, a bit overextended there, and no good on the execute.
And I got to give a lot of praise to the way Inbound and Solar Troll just fused together there in their CC chains. I mean, good luck running away from that. You get pulled under the tower, you take a few steps, it looks like you're out, and then Solar Troll just hits a perfect knock-up to pull you right back in. It's just a really good combination. And that's the big worry for me for the Dragons later on. They've got some good setup, they've got decent stuns and things like that, but the Scarabs have really good zone control for people who are either trying to get aggressive or just going to get locked down.
Oh, poor Baronic. Yeah, hold on to your beads, friend. There's not a real chance for you here. Dove on in the mid lane, blink, pull, execute from Sanford Soccer. And execute the Jade Dragons have at seemingly every turn here. Killing spree now for the Susano. And what timing? In the Jade Dragons playbook, you rotate over as the Fury's spawning, you get a kill, and then you give yourself a good chance to secure the objective.
And now you're sitting with 2,000 experience and gold. You've got Divine Ruin, Brawlers, the things that are going to be problematic. Specifically from, I'm looking at Baronic because he's the one who's going to have the most survivability, but now that Pythags piece, pretty much the whole team, it does feel like they are finding the ways to really just thwart the Scarabs early game at every single corner. But that's the thing about the Scarabs draft is, I'm thinking of Soul. I'm not really thinking of too much. Like, she's decent early on, but I like her late game really well because
she scales well.
She does so much in the late game. Same thing for Stewart here on Iza.
Oh, man, SOT. He's been the recipient of a Sanford Soccer rotation or 2 already this game. And receives it a 3rd time. If Inbound's not there, you might see Final K and Sam continuing their pressure, but abilities on cooldown will mean that Solo or Troll has to back off. We wondered what direction Final K would start to take this build. Pythags piece into Typhons, and then it looks like Gore.
Finally some prots.
So some defense, some prots down the stretch here will keep Final K healthy.
And if I remember correctly, Zhang Kuei does, again, he's relatively tanky inherently. It's built into his kit where he's going to be able to have some of those, but you still want something, right? The further on this goes, especially because, like I said, unless Sam, which with that build is not going to be a frontliner, you're leaning really heavily on Mike, and Achilles can tank up some, but still would like some help in that engagement. And so I anticipate that being the path for the last of it is a breastplate of Valor. And so you're going to have cooldown as well, which admittedly just helps Final K ultimately with this damage output.
Mike under threat of being dunked on by Scream here. And Scream will jump down onto the back cam. So it's been a bit of an awkward transition, hasn't it been, for Scream, where you get that early dunk into mid, you kill Hurrywind, and you're feeling like now there's maybe this trend where this Thor can start to impact the game and in the mid lane really Gore, I don't know. Scream just hasn't really had that opportunity. Maybe part of it's on Scream himself, but also the rest of the map hasn't necessarily been ideal for rotating in. Not when Sam for Soccer is able to do this, a counter gank, nearly a death sentence every time.
I mean, the way things have been going, and admittedly it's watching. If that Dark Portal is down, then the 1v1 matchup's going Panda Cat's way. If it's up, it's a little bit more of a toss-up, right? As long as Stewart's able to connect it, there's a good chance he's going to be able to find that damage. Of course, it also depends on who's in the jungle. Right now, Inbound is surrounded without actually knowing he's surrounded.
Yep.
A lot that's just hanging out in the jungle. But they're not going for any loop path or cutoff. I think you can see Scream. He's actually going to start a back animation, but the way they're playing is just still aggressive. Jesus Christ. That's he's just dead.
Yeah, he's been just dead a few times this game. Sam for Soccer is melting.
I was trying to drop that for you.
Right, you physically didn't have enough time. You would have required premonition of that occurring. You would have had to know that it was happening 10 seconds before it really did for me to have a chance. And I think our surprise probably does that play more justice. Sam with Crusher, Brawler's Beatstick, and Jotuns firmly in that mace tree evaporates Baronic. 9,000 player damage, 16 minutes in. That'll be top in the game for the Jade Dragons jungler, and he is going to build up just a little bit more here. Will Mike weave the execute in? No, he won't. SOT good on the body block. But Sam for Soccer and the rest of the Dragons continue to wreak havoc here. Pyromancer goes down, and Stuart Gore, I think, doing the best that he can. We're going to take down the tower here on left, get our team some gold, and set up for later win conditions if we're able to survive that long.
Good news, bad news time. Good news.
Bad news first.
Okay,
Unless the order doesn't make sense.
Well, no. So bad news for the Scarabs is that they're down 3,000 gold, and that's really
not
starting.
good.
That is a pressure point.
That is bad news.
The good news is experience is as such that you're not really that far behind. I mean, it was what 1,400 in favor of the Dragons, but you've got a level lead in solo, a deficit there in jungle and mid, and in the support role. But then Stewart's
right,
even. So you're not really that stressed about the levels.
Even 3K gold could be a lot worse.
And honestly, I like your draft going into these late game team fights a little bit more just because of the front line. I think there's still a lot of caveats that come to it. You know, if Mike hits an execute, that changes a lot of everything. But with Hercules and Khepri as is, as well as what Scream can bring with a Thor in the middle of a fight, I really do think the Scarabs, despite being down 7-2, despite the 3K gold lead, are going to transition pretty well into this next phase of the game. Yep. They just have to start showing up as a group for a lot of these objectives. The Sony Fury is where my eyes are turning to that. Be willing to fight, because I think they've got good engage, and I think they've got good control to really help lock down the Dragons.
Could be so much worse, couldn't it? I mean,
yes.
The Jade Dragons...
There is a world where this game is ending, like, now.
Right, where, you know, the Jade Dragons are 5 to 8 to 10K gold up at this point in the game. Could be leagues worse. And that's not even a slight against the Dragons. I feel like the Dragons have been controlling everything. They've gotten all the Furies. They've gotten the Pyromancers. They've played the map as well as they can. The Scarabs have done a good job of stopping the bleeding as well as you can. You're still leaking a little blood, but it's not as horrific as it could be, given the pace that the Jade Dragons are playing this game. And so there are those transitional periods in this game where maybe you start to see the Solar Scarabs get a little bit more comfortable. Baronic has been sat on. He's still even in levels with Hurrywin. Maybe you start off a fight with a kill onto Polar Bear Mike with all that chain CC. You gotta get a kill if you're gonna spend 3 ultimates onto Mike, though, and Mike will just walk away. Scream up in the air, and down he goes onto Hurrywin, and SOT opens up the killing here on the Solar Scarabs. Have won this trade.
And that's a really big pickup. It might not be Mike. They might have dumped a lot of ults, but look, Mike can't really get back in here. He doesn't have the same health bar that he needs to work with, and so he has the execute available, and they're looking like they might want to re-engage.
Oh, it's a big blink in, push and pull, that's all good, and Baronic, the one who gets the kill. Final K surging forward, Panda Cat's still alive in the back, and you can't count him out, not when he's on Ullr, and he'll add another 2-for-2 trade across both engagements so far. The Jade Dragons fight into that one, Gord, a numbers deficit, and still were able to find a couple kills.
And then not only get a couple of kills, yes, you do lose Mike, but you kill off Inbound. Didn't have time to get his ult off, so you don't even have the res. So the worst part of the Khepri kit, admittedly still available, but you didn't have to deal with it, which is even better for you. But you stop him from getting the Oni Fury. That should have been a very clean pickup for the Scarabs. So a good re-engage, realistically, from Sam, I want to give a lot of credit to. But Panda Cat as well, the way they're playing, getting that aggressive that quickly, opened up a lot of opportunities that I think otherwise the Scarabs would have just been able to run over them.
And that was kind of our first glimpse at Final K in a big team fight environment. And I'm not sure, unless I'm just remembering incorrectly, I'm not sure I saw this Jean-Qui's health bar dip beneath half HP. He was able to walk forward despite in a numbers disadvantage. and make an impact on this fight. SOT plays that very well as well. Both solo laners, I think, do their team some justice on their rotation in. And how about it from SOT as the Jade Dragons grab the Oni Fury? He was eating so much pressure in this game. It was fine okay plus Sam for Soccer. Even PBM made his way over a couple times, and this Hercules still has got a level lead coming out of lane.
And it's really weird because looking at the builds, it's just like a couple of for some of them it's tier 2s, but tier 3 items that are finished specifically in jungle and carry. Those are the big differences that you're seeing right now in the gold. Admittedly, ward coverage as well. There's 3 sentries in the pockets of the Dragons. So they're going to have a good amount of vision over here. But if you are able to keep this game, at least at this state, granted still slipping away, the Scarabs are not anywhere near as far out of this as it feels.
Fire Giant started by the Dragons, and why not? You played aggressively in every facet of the game. Why not continue to do so around the FG? And it's going down quickly. Can Inbound make some magic happen? No, he can't. The Jade Dragons get the FG, and Inbound gets a death. It's a pullback in from Sam for Soccer. Stewart will dash away. All the mobility getting used to disengage from this fight. And the Scarabs at least able to do that.
I got to give the Dragons credit because what I thought was going to be the counter for this Khepri was the executes that would come out consistently. What it has been is just CC. Inbound has not had the ability to use his ultimate in these last few fights because he has just been CC'd before he's able to throw it, not onto himself, onto anybody. And that has created so many more opportunities for the Dragons than admittedly they should have. And now with the Fire Giant buff, with a couple of these enhanced buffs that are around their belts, they're going to be able to continue aggressively playing throughout most of this map. Pyromancer, a couple of towers. If left goes down, that makes things a lot easier for him as well. So the minions putting in a lot of work.
And plenty of gold in hand now for the Jade Dragons. 2K at most, about 1,300 at least after everyone has gone back to spend. Big power spike for Hurrywind, Soul Reaver, fully completed. Heart Seeker completed for Sam for Soccer. You thought that the Susano was dealing a lot of damage, Gore, and it's getting a little bit worse here for the Solar Scarab. Sam on a warpath in game number 1. Final K able to go back, finish up a Void Stone. And so we get some defense in there. You still trickle in a little extra power at the end of the build.
It's kind of wild to think about it. 90% kill participation right now for Sam. Like, I mean, he has been in pretty much everything that he could
meta,
be.
Look, Sam for Soccer, do not get this statement twisted. He has played well all of Season 8 so far.
But this is his meta.
This is Sam's meta. This is what he wants to be doing. He wants to be the Hunbats diving in, starting off a fight. He wants to be the Susano rotating through, executing targets. This is a scary Dragons team to play against when Sam is able to play his picks. We'll see if Sam gets an impact on this fight. Right now, it's an engage, but Final K wants to be back there. Look at the health bars of Stewart and Veronic. They're melting, and Final K was right on their front door. SOT silence on out. Typhoon finds its way in. Hurrywind will snag this one. PBM's got to get out. Scream won't give him the opportunity. Panda Cat adds another now for the Jade Dragons. He wants to keep going. When your Hunter's playing the furthest forward, you're probably winning the game, and the Jade Dragons a few seconds away of doing so in game 1.
Yeah, Scream looks like he's going to go ahead and get out with his life, but that's not saying too much here. You had to watch everybody else go down in the process. That's just a clean fight, and again, that execute comes in handy.
Oh my goodness. Deicide for the Jade Dragons. Panda Cat adds 3,
icing on the cake.
By the end of that, look, this is a scary Jade Dragons team. And
yeah.
Look, we get to sit in our seats. Yeah, don't be caught by surprise. Gore, I appreciate.
I hurt my foot.
Yeah, you hurt his foot. And so one upside of Gore hooding his
Hooding
foot.
my foot. I
hurt
hurt my foot.
Is that we get to chill out in these nice SMITE Maxnomic chairs. Gaming, casting, all that in comfort. We certainly enjoyed here. So thank you for getting hurt, Gore.
You're welcome.
Yeah, no problem. The Jade Dragons apply some hurt, though, don't they, to the Solar Scarabs here in Game 1. Sam for Soccer on a warpath, I think is the way I worded it, and I'm going to stick with that wording. Mm-hmm. Scary team to play against right now.
Yeah, and honestly, with things like the Achilles support being available, knowing that all of a sudden your Khepri pick might not be as easily powerful as we are used to in the past.
Did we see a Scarabs blessing that game?
He got one at the very end, and guess what? Got executed. Yeah.
That's tough. Scarabs a team that like to turn these types of sets around. Do not count out a game 3, but to get there, we got to go to game 2. And to get there, we got to go to a break.
That's right. You can go to shop.smiteproleague.com to pick up any of the SPL merch that you may be wanting. Specifically, we've got those athletic joggers and the mouse pads, all team specific, so you can pick up your favorite one. Whatever team that you want to represent, you can pick the joggers up, you can pick the mouse pad up. There's one individualized for each one. While the joggers are just the standard black jogger with the logo, the mouse pads are all unique depending on those logos. And every time I look at one, I just go, man, that one's good. No, wait, that one's good. I really, honestly, I've seen them now for over a week, and I still cannot determine which of these ones I want to pick up. So maybe pick one of yours up if you can figure out which one you can decide on. Shop.smiteproleague.com. Thank you so much, Inside Apparel, for providing all this new merchandise for us and for all of you out there to go ahead and to get a pickup if you so wish to do so. Jade Dragons, they get the ball rolling early here in game number 1, and, well, that ball never stopped rolling in their favor. The Solar Scarabs didn't have a whole lot of an answer back to them here in game 1.
The early game was a quiet jungle diff, I'd say. Sanford Soccer just making his impact known a little bit more so on the map. And then once we got to the team fight phase, it was a 5-on-5 diff. I mean, it just felt like I could honestly hear Bobby getting whiplash, trying to whip his head back and forth, figure out who he wanted to ult with these Scarabs Blessings because of all this AoE damage from the Jade Dragons. It just never really came up, right? It was like, oh, everybody's low. Who do I ult? Sometimes he just ulted himself. So in this one, the Jade Dragons do come out ahead, and it was, as you said, non-stop pressure from the early game into the mid game, into the late game, and it just felt like the Solar Scarabs never really had the opportunity to fight back in. In particular, I'd say that Scream has a very quiet performance this time around. A lot of these store ults inside of the mid to early game where he goes up into the air, and I'm sitting back there with the team talking about it, and I'm like, all right, where's he going to land? He lands on his own back camps. He lands on his own speed buff. It felt like there really wasn't many times where the Solar Scarabs kind of utilized that Anvil of Dawn to engage a lot of these fights.
Yeah, I think Dave and Gore kind of put it best as far as how this Khepri was concerned for inbound. Is he wanted to get ultimates off, but he never had an opportunity. Every time he looked over to try and throw it, he was being pulled in by something, whether it's being stunned by Mike or literally yanked by Sam for Soccer via that wind siphon to pull him back, knocked up by the Typhoon. He didn't get many opportunities, and when he finally did, well, there was always an execute waiting right behind. PBM on this Achilles. It was a little bit questionable, at least for me, kind of questioning how this God was going to perform in this role, how Mike was going to utilize it, and it seems did just fine, able to do its job. Get rid of some of those revives via the execute, and more than anything, just provide a nice early lead here for Panda Cat. And Panda Cat very quiet for the majority of the game until that very last team fight by the Phoenix, and then it was just Panda Cat out for blood. I mean, he jumped in by himself into enemy territory and decided, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and team diff everybody by myself.
Yeah, I think he almost like went up 6,000 damage towards the end of that game. He was sitting at like the 5th spot inside of the match, and then ends it at the very top with by about like 200 at the very end. So Panda Cat finds himself a very good performance inside of this one. And I think if we're going to see some changes, they're probably going to happen here. I'm expecting a lot of differences inside of the P's and B's, in particular Bobby's pick, Khepri. I mean, great pick. Khepri's obviously incredibly strong. We're seeing a lot of pick ban priority towards this god, but the Solar Scarabs really do look their best when inbound is allowed to play these aggressive picks to lead the charge and have the rest of the team behind him. And who was it earlier today? Awesome Jake, who said, yeah, the new supports are sit in the back and just hope your carries don't die. I'm not sure that exactly fits Bobby's style.
Yeah, that's not something that typically Bobby likes to go with. We'll see how things change up in game number 2's picks and bans as we get ready to hop right in those. And I mean, we had an immediate priority going towards, Uller was kind of that top of the line here for these two teams. I mean, the mid laners just kind of did, whatever they want. Tiamat didn't even get looked at the entirety of the game. It was all about this Raijin, all about the soul. Baronic didn't get to have a whole lot of fun with that soul in mid lane, got pretty bullied by Sam Susano. And in the ban specifically, we saw a ton of frontline pressure. There was 3 Guardians by the Jade Dragons that they banned, or by the Solar Scarabs that were banned away, and there was a Guardian and a Warrior by the Jade Dragons. And the first time we see an immediate change up in that. Hun Bots, the first got taken away by the Scarabs, and an RTO response by the Jade Dragons. They don't want to let that bear get through.
Yeah, there's not many times I'm really looking forward to playing against Hun bots, right? Fear No Evil is just a feels bad ability. If my beads are down, I'm probably down right afterward once that cooldown is expended. And I would say playing against Sanford Soccer's Hun bots is probably one of the worst ways to deal with that one. So the Solar Scarabs say exactly that, no thanks. And the Jade Dragons, they're keeping their eyes a little bit more so towards that standard meta. RDO taken off the table, Cripple Field, Stun, slows again, Roots, tons of damage, healing, everything afforded to you by that pick, and not one we want to see here today. Solar Scarabs swiftly rounding back with a Susano and Khepri ban, so we will get to see a different look from inbound this time around as the Jade Dragons finish up their ban phase with Ullr and Odin. Again, very standard here. So what's left available for the Scarabs to look towards in that first pick? It's Raijin. Surprised to see that one prioritized over the Tiamat, but maybe I shouldn't be because we did not see it at all in Game 1.
Yeah, it seems that neither of these teams really that concerned with grabbing Tiamat, though, with the Raijin picked up here. Maybe now Hurrywin can go that way, where previously was the Raijin picked up and then it was a Soul in response for the Solar Scarabs. We'll see what that changeup is. I mean, Yamoja's still available, Hell's still available. I could just go down the list of all the new gods we've been seeing, and I'll throw a couple more. We got Geb and Sylvanas are both still able to be picked up and can be played by both these supports. Sylvanas specifically for inbound. This is a god that he has loved to have been playing. He even played it before Sylvanas was considered meta or considered good. He played up against the Bolts back in Phase 2. And then the Geb that's been banned away from Mike so many games after his standout performance in the first game that he got to pop it out. Surprised to see that that's still up.
Yeah, the Jade Dragons essentially have everything at their disposal here. I wouldn't be surprised if we see the support pick kind of prioritized. I know that Mike does like going towards those more aggressive picks as well, actually going towards the Achilles in Game 1, obviously. But as you have said, it is Geb and Sylvanas still available here, and the Jade Dragons could elect to pick one up or instead shift their attention elsewhere, realizing that the Solar Scarabs likely aren't going to take both, right? I mean, you could take Sylvanas, you could take Geb, but you're probably not taking both of these picks, so the Jade Dragons might shift their attention elsewhere as Tiamat does get locked in, and that one's almost certainly going towards Hurrywin. You've got great artillery damage, you've got good CC to follow up, you've got great split push potential as well, and maybe all that analysis I was doing a moment ago goes to the wind as Geb is locked in here by the Jade Dragons.
You know, you were talking, Geb and Sylvanas, you can't pick them on the same comp. You could if you throw Geb in solo lane. It's been a while since we've seen it, but there is still some potential. It's got the, it's got the new damage with its ultimate. It does some flat damage, so it's always good to have that, and really good to gank some of those weaker targets. But will be Tiamat Geb for the Jade Dragons. That leaves a lot open still for the Solar Scarabs, namely the Sylvanas we were talking a little bit about earlier. Instead, it'll be Hachiman picked up here. Ullr was banned away, and that's kind of been the premier hunter as of the 8.9 patch. So seeing him taken away instantly, they don't want Panda Cat to go on that tirade he did in game number 1, so they'll take it away. And now with Hachiman locked in and a Sylvanas for inbound, getting a little bit of comfort here, allows him to either be that backliner if necessary, or could be one of those big frontline initiators.
Yeah, if Hachiman wants to, could go towards that Transcendence very early on in the build and not have to worry about going towards mana pots in the initial laning phase. And then you're kind of benefiting from both health potions, multi-potions, and the healing of Sylvanas, allowing you to play pretty aggressively and just going for a lot of pressure, especially considering playing against both Geb and Hou Yi. You've essentially drafted 0 lane clear on the side of the Jade Dragons as far as dual lane is concerned, so pressure should largely favor the Solar Scarabs, at least in the early laning phase. Once these supports start to rotate out, that's where this Geb will start to see some of his fruition, I'd say. But as of right now, second banning phase started up, and Jade Dragons, they've got their eyes on a couple of Guardians already. Terra taken off the board.
Yeah, we've been seeing a lot of Terra flex over towards solo in recent weeks, so no surprise seeing them still throw a little bit of priority that way and make sure to keep Sot off of something comfortable, though he did play just fine on the Hercules last game. Could be something he goes back towards, but it will be a Raven as a ban here by the Jade Dragons. Still don't have their own assassin just yet, but Sam will have the pick of the litter as soon as he comes back up out of this ban phase. It's a Tsukuyomi and a Zhang Kui. Final K did well on the Zhang Kui. I don't know if Zhang Kui is the god I would prioritize a ban towards, but it seems Solar Scarabs are having no more of it.
No, it just wasn't fun to play against, right? I mean, that AoE damage was so hard to deal with within the 5-on-5 engagement. We saw very often, who am I Scarabs blessing? Nobody. Everybody's taking too much damage. So, Zhang Kui seems to have left a lasting impression here on the Solar Scarabs, who decide to ban that out with their very last pick. And as far as assassins go, hey man, you could do worse than Loki. That feels pretty alright, especially in gods like Raijin, who only have that one ability to escape. The CC immunity on Assassinate means that Taiko Drum's probably not going to be the best tool to deal with this god. And then Hachiman, well, if you're stunned out, you might just get one shot immediately afterward, but Hachiman is still one of the safest hunters within the game, so maybe Loki has to work a little bit harder there for dual lane ganks.
Tyr as a lock in here. Now, we really only see this come out with, namely, Ducky from the Valkyries. It's a pick that he does like to go back towards, but seeing a Tyr here as a pick and then a Bakasura. I'm not gonna hedge my bets on this Bakasura being locked in by the Solar Scarabs. May not surprise me if it does go there, but with all the other assassins out there, Bakasur is not the one that I throw my cards towards, and it does get locked in by the Scarabs. How you liking this Baka as a 9th pick?
Legitimately, I'm not memeing. I think Bakasura is a really good pick here.
Okay.
I mean, taking a peek at what the Jade Dragons have so far, Tiamat, the cripple from Regurgitate, going to stop a lot of what she's looking to do. Not only can she not stun you, because you've got that burst of CC immunity once you use Bakasura's ultimate, but she also can't switch stances. No leap available, no secondary abilities. Means that that's a pretty decent target for you to chase out. Geb as well, pretty easy to exploit inside of the early game. Cataclysm being his main self-peel tool, doesn't really work against Regurgitate. Also, that rollout, very easy to lock you down. Ho Yi, no CC immunity inside of the kit, so what is he going to do? He's going to try and use that third ability to jump away. Does not work. Also doesn't really have the greatest 1v1 potential up against Bakasura because it is just the single target CC from Ricochet that is going to be able to peel him off. And again, CC immunity there. I think this Bakasura has a lot of 1v1 potential across the map and does still have some of the best jungle clear. It means that he's going to be very likely to pull a lead. And with all the buffs coming towards all these assassin items, if he wants to go that standard attack speed build, things like Kin Size, Executioner, Stone Cutting Sword, even the Serrated Edge, you might be sacrificing a little bit of power compared to these mace builds. But what does Bakasura get from his third ability, the Butcher Blades? Just passive power added on every time he levels it.
And lots of extra power, lots of extra attack speed that he can get himself in that can. If you want to talk about buff confirm, yeah, Tiamat with the consume, you got to kind of look back here at the OG with Bakasura, that eat minion able to consume those camps just as nicely. Now, you don't get the same benefit of dropping a copy of that one down for your teammates, but he doesn't have to be in a certain stance to do it. He gets it at any point in the game, has a good leap, some good chase down. This Bakasura could work out here against the Jade Dragons. I think that analysis is pretty solid against it. I mean, every single god on this roster, even with the Loki with no mobility, only having that assassinate, he's not going to have a lot of fun going up against this Bakasura. A ton of lockdown, ton of pick potential for the Solar Scarabs roster. The Jade Dragons, they've got a decent amount of anti-pick with that Stone Shield. Do you think this Geb might be a little bit of a thorn in the side for this Bakasura?
He could be, but AoE auto attacks means that you're really only stone shielding one person, so if you're finding a multi-man Regurgitate, there are opportunities for this Bakasura to work out well. I would say that Loki probably does have one of the better matchups in the Baka, considering slow immunity inside of the stealth. Just walk out of the Regurgitate, or if you want to wait it out a little bit, now that Assassinate's kind of a disjointed ability, you can kind of wait out that CC immunity from Bakasura's ultimate as well, so there's some interesting matchups here.
Backs against the wall, Solar Scarabs bring out the Baka. Can it take them to a game 3? Let's take it to Dave and Gore to find out.
What you really got to do here if you're the Solar Scarabs is slow down the Jade Dragons. Game 1 was peak Dragon Smite. They roll you over early, and they keep rolling you over as that game goes on. Game number 2 between the Dragons and the Scarabs kicking off right now, and Gore, we still got a little spice here on this one. SOT on the tier. And I like this pick for him. I like his ability to control these fights. We saw a little bit of it with the Hercules in Game 1. And I think expectations for me pretty high here for SOT on this tier going into Game 2.
Yeah, I'm really excited to watch it. I just love tier in general, and he's starting off pretty good. If he had Fearless up, or I guess he had his Cleave. Now he should have the Fearless. This could be a kill.
Could be. Fine, okay. Jumps up and over, but it's a blink forward from SOT. One last auto. He's throwing his hands up, wondering what Final K is doing in his lane. And it's an early solo kill for SOT. Won't be another. Yes,
wow.
It is. Solar Scarabs off to a 2-0 start.
I mean,
before a minute in the game.
A great turnaround for them. That is so good as a start. You have a little bit more damage going your way if you're Scream than you want, but hey, guess what? You can always make that back by eating a minion,
no way,
so
right?
you're not too worried about it. I think this is a great start. In fact, Solar or Troll might be looking for a little bit more. Okay, no, he's going to back off. He's level 3. That might have been a little too much if he tries to get aggressive with the minion wave there. But that is a great, great engage for both sets of the Scarabs here. Now I'm anticipating what happens in the dual lane.
I'm hoping that we're allowed to clip and air what SOT was saying just now after that solo kill, because, look, this is a guy...
We can censor some stuff.
I imagine
if
we
necessary.
can, right. But look, the moment that solo kill happens... I look down at his player cam, his hands are up, he's shaking his head, and he's yelling something. He's obviously feeling pretty good about the way that Game 2 has started here for himself and the rest of his team. It's one thing getting a solo kill in the solo lane, Gore, and as you mentioned, then some stuff happens in mid. Now it's time to look to the duo lane. Could we see some action there? PBM and Panda Cat on the Geb and the Ho Yi. On the other side, you got inbound on Sylvana, Stewart on Hachiman. So maybe a little potential there for the supports to help set up. But between Sanford Soccer and Scream Gore, maybe the jungle rotations is where stuff happens.
Oh my
unless
God.
Panda Cat's going to get pulled and stunned.
Wow.
He'll dash away and or leap away, I guess. Feel all right after that, but not happy with the amount of damage he just caught.
That's why Geb is going to be necessary here. Just having that CC immunity that can come through from the shield that really will help you out more often than not is going to open the avenue to at least slow down the Sylvanas. That's the only thing with the healing that Sylvanas has and the pressure so far the Scarabs have. But the Geb on the other side, I think, stops there from being as explosive nature to the duo lane. Granted, you're not supposed to necessarily have an explosive nature in the solo lane. That's just a good early kill that comes from SOT. And that is about the way you'd want to start it. And the fact that they've been able to really start to put that pressure on everywhere because of some very early tumbles, specifically the jungle going down, slowing down a Loki is a really big deal. And the Scarabs are in a good spot. And this actually, again, kind of reminds me, you go back to Phase 1 when these two first place off. Dragons win Game 1, Scarabs win Game 2 and 3. I think in Phase 2, first set they played against each other. Dragons win Game 1, Scarabs wins Game 2 and 3.
Watch just peak Scarabs. That's what they do.
They just, you got to take a tumble so you can get up, brush yourself off.
That's right. And Game 2s have looked good for the Solar Scarabs recently. Remember, this is the 4th set this phase that the Solar Scarabs have played. 2 of the first 3 went 3 games against teams ranked in the top 4 of the league in Phase 2. One of them, the Phase 2 champion Tartarus Titans, the other, the Camelot Kings. Lost a 2-0 set to the Oni Warriors, but a team that feels that they had winnable sets that they should have won, that slipped away by their own doing up against the prior 2 that we talked about here. So a great start to Game 2. What is that, 1.5k gold in the lead already, or 4 minutes in? And this is why, Gore, I like this pick for SOT. Not only that solo kill, but the ability to kind of keep that lead rolling. One level lead here. My eyes are open for big plays as this game goes on. Watch out for the Fearless in those team fights, because SOT is poised for a good performance.
Admittedly, gives them a really good transition as well. I mean, at this point, level 6, so you have your ult online. I'm wondering if SOT is going to be willing to rotate, because that amount of just displacement in a fight, especially with Bakasura beside you, makes things very easy. And the Bakasura and Stuart on this Hachiman make me want some anti-auto attack, anything, items, relics, all of it. But realistically, I think Zot's just going to be able to get aggressive.
Fine, okay, low. He's got the ultimate if he wants to go for it. SOT does not. But Gore, dare I say, Fine OK is being manhandled a little bit over here in the solo lane. The Nike has to head on back to base. Scream stunned by the red buff, and the chain CC is hefty, and the damage from Panda Cat helps sets up the first kill of the game for the Jade Dragon. Sanford Soccer, the first to strike pay dirt for the Chaos side.
And that's a good kill to be able to pick up. Admittedly, I would argue one that you
assassinates here for Sanford Soccer. He'll walk on in, waiting for those beads, but the ultimate's there on the other side as well. And so Stuart will gallop away. But great pressure to transition that for Sam. I mean, you help out with a kill, and you rotate over to duo, you get ult. Out of Stuart, didn't have to use the beads. My eyes deceived me. The golden glowing Hachiman was just on his horse riding away.
And it gives me 2 things. One, it showcases that Sam, despite an early fall, is still going to be pretty proactive across the map. It makes me curious if he's going to show face over here. I don't know that either Loki nor Nike have a lot of prowess in killing off this tier. But the other one, I think, and I'd have to double check this, but the rarest skin in the game is the SMITE Rivals Loki. That is what
just
Sam
the number
is
of
playing.
people who own it?
Yeah, because you could only get it, I believe, from codes at that HRX, and those were very limited.
Do you have it?
I do, because my brother was currently, when he worked here, the one giving out those codes.
Now, Gore, that is a very fun fact. I appreciate that. Those are the stats you can't imagine we track, but you bet we do. It's Gore inside and helping us. Yeah, somebody tracks him. Inbound deep in the Jade Dragon side of the jungle here. It's a jump in from Fine OK. PBM Fearless on away, and the CC suddenly being turned on the Jade Dragon. Support inbound will not get the ultimate off. Fine OK able to pick up the first here, and Polar Bear Mike actually walking away. Assassinate comes back up. Sanford Soccer re-engage. Big up down from Fine OK. The chain CC piling on, but Scream is going to jump away from this one. Can SOT make a big play happen? Aegis out from Sanford Soccer, but But have you gone too far forward, SOT? Can the tier get out of this one? Fine, okay, won't hit the up down. And a little heal comes in from SOT, pushes PBM beneath the tower. My God, he's a madman. SOT turns around at 3v1.
And ultimately, it's support for support at the end of the day. A very, very good set of plays from SOT, and that healing coming in handy twice now to keep him alive. Scream's able to get out of there. I was really going to say I loved what Mike was able to do with the turnaround to specifically stay engaged in there. A couple of good shields, a good knockup could have been even more essential to them if he hits the tier. Might have been able to find the kill. But ultimately, Sot has been playing out of his mind.
God, this is ruthless. It's absolutely ruthless. My man has no mana and half HP, and we're still trying to invade blue buffs. Will SOT pay for his crimes? Sam for Soccer might. Lawbringer doesn't hit. On to Sam, who will walk away. Unless inbound, able to make something happen. Gets the pull onto Sam for Soccer. Knock up thanks to the Geb shield won't do much. PBM helps his jungler away. SOT will walk away as well. This right side of the map, Gore, is, I don't know, man. It's a war zone. It's a bloodbath over here on right.
And, well, actually, oh, good. We'll get to see it. So right here, incredibly low for SOT. Geb is cooling up. Shockwave comes out.
Missing. That
just
up, down
a second. That
big.
up down missing, but as well as the fact that he got some healing, he had just gotten away. And of course, you know, shout out to Tier 1 Tower, giving him a little bit of extra damage. But I mean, that's about as clean as you could get when it comes down to tier, showcasing exactly what the healing is capable of in a lot of those scenarios. But also just how much, I would argue that Nike was lacking. If that jump connects from Fine OK, maybe there's a kill, but you don't really have a lot of other damage in there, especially not with a Sovereignty Rush. So, you know, Fine OK's been struggling, and you could really feel it there.
Sam looking for Scream here, who is half HP. Scream is going to walk plenty far away. Sam able to get a sightline here, assassinates forward, stun onto inbound. Not the target you're looking for if you're Sam for Soccer, especially when Stewart's there to return a bunch of damage. Sam was full HP, now is half. And so the right side of the map has been great for the Solar Scarabs. It's been about a steady 1.5k gold lead that still maintains here 9 minutes into the game, so it hasn't gotten worse for the Jade Dragons. Hasn't necessarily gotten better, though. The left side of the map feels all right for Stewart here, Gore. We've seen a pretty steady 1 to 2 level lead for Panda Cat in the in game 1 at least. The fact that Stewart is now playing with that lead, great for the Solar Scarabs' chances, especially with the Gold Fury up and ready to be fought over.
And the fact that, again, he's been relatively safe, didn't have to use his beads the last time Loki went over there for a gank. Did have to drop his ult, but you're not really that worried about that if you're a Hachiman.
It's back.
So I think, yeah, it's a really good spot to be in for Stewart, and I want him to see it continue.
Oh, PBM answers one ult with his own. Tycho Drum's also spent here. There's got to be a dead Geb. And dead Geb it is after Baronic deals the killing blow. Jump in, though, from Hurrywin. Gets a knock-up onto Scream. Panda Cat lurking around the corner as well. SOT mirroring Fine OK. As you'd expect, anywhere Fine OK goes, SOT will be there. And so there is no further rotation in. PBM, I was about to say a bit too far forward, but he was underneath his Tier 1 tower. That was the Scarabs just choosing Mike to die.
Yeah, and you know what? They do a good job of not only isolating him, but really locking him down. They force the Cataclysm out as well, so they don't have to worry about that ult. It does cost them a good amount, but the Dragons were just behind on their rotations. If they're a little bit faster, someone gets caught out, it goes 1 for 1. The fact that they are able to get back and retreat, that screams how well the Scarabs are in control here. And honestly, I think as time goes on, you've got a good, 2 kills now on Raijin. Scream hasn't been a huge part just yet, but this isn't even the phase of the game where I'm scared of Bakasura yet, and he's still been active across the map.
That's a good point, Gore. That's a great point. We talked about scaling for the Scarabs in Game 1 and how that's maybe an avenue back into the game. We're talking about scaling for the Solar Scarabs in Game 2, and they're already ahead. You're giving yourself a great deal of comfort, of headway, in getting this Bakasura fully online. And it's interesting, or would be interesting, to follow along with the build. Bakasura, auto-attack centric. What direction is that build going to go? Still Jotun's Wrath first, into the Crusher next, so you still get some attack speed in the build. But that Mace Tree, Gore, apparently just too much value to build full-on attack damage based early on here for Scream.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what he decides to pick up over the next couple of items. Just
right?
because,
Still
there's a lot that can... Well, and those 2 items that he has, admittedly, just enhance it. I mean, if I'm thinking, man, I'm Bakasura, Cooldown is good for Butcher Blades. You have that more often, plus you regurgitate more often, and you jump more often. All of those. That sounds pretty good to me whenever I'm playing a Bakasura. So I think Scream's in a good spot for some early fights. But as he transitions now with the beads, so he's going to have something to help keep him safe. I really like where he's going with this. I'm curious what he decides to kind of shift into. If there's going to be some prod items, things to help him live, or if he's going to be focused entirely on the damage.
Gore, SOT is here, and I think that means the Solar Scarabs are feeling all right about a Gold Fury fight. This is a big pivot point in this game for the Jade Dragons. You're pretty far behind for 12 minutes in. How much are you willing to spend? And pretty far behind to put that in context. Just shy of 3,000 gold, 2.5k or so. Polar Bear Mike gets pulled in, drops Horrific Emblem, but Final K goes in, drops the Sentinel of Zeus, and that health shield is gone, and it is gone quickly. Stuart uses his ult, Final K uses his. On the other side, Blink is down though, Horrific Emblem is down. Few actives, few ultimates spent for both sides.
And realistically, you're in a good spot because, like you said, a few ultimates used. Cataclysm still exists, and Mike is here.
This is quick. Polar Bear Mike walks in and does not walk out with it. It's a massive Cataclysm that Final K jumps in to follow up with, and the disengage is quick from the Solar Scarabs. Panic Hat with his ultimate has gotten those health bars low. Scream, blinks forward, gets the kill on a Final K. Hurrywin in the back line has turned around one. But chopping away is Scream, and it's a double kill for the Baka.
And remember, this is still not exactly the phase of the game that I'm scared of him, and he gets a double kill. Good turnaround from Scream to be able to pick up those kills. Admittedly, that's a big win, even if you just lose SOT, despite the kills. It was going to be a win for you because of the Fury going your way, but now having the 2 kills, admittedly with Panda Cat being a high priority target, the Scarabs are in a great spot to be able to drive this forward, and this feels a lot more like what we've come to expect out of this team, or at least what we want to see out of this team, that we haven't really gotten to see as much of.
Wondered if Mike was going to roll out all the way behind and try to make something happen there, but Sam's got no mana, Mike is low, and Stewart is full of both of those things. So, would have been a tough tower dive, just putting out some pressure. Been a quiet game from Sam for soccer here, Gore. Game 1, Sam on the Susano took things over and drove the point home on a frequent basis. Have not seen the same out of the Loki just yet. 2 levels down to Scream, who's level 14, to Sam for Soccer's 12. And a decent gap as far as XP goes in support as well. Inbound is going to have a pretty decent-sized cushion of time with 2 relics, 2 actives ready to go for these team fights where PBM's trying to catch up.
Yeah, I'll admit, this Loki pick still has me a little perplexed because the things that I know he's going to be good at so far has been very slow, but late game, you choose a target, theoretically they're going to be killed off, or at least you're going to get the relics. Stuart has no relics right now, maybe an easy target for Sam, but he's also 2 levels down, so he's struggling a little bit in terms of farm. That's something to be said for a lot of the Dragons. Mike's level 9 compared to the 12 from Inbound, so Inbound's going to be able to get a second relic and really enhance his team in these next couple of fights. It's making a big difference how well the Scarabs are playing this, and specifically how well they're farming across the map. And it really is opening up this conversation because, like you said, Sam's been really quiet, and late game Loki can do a lot, but also sometimes he just falls flat on his face, and I'm really curious as to whether or not he's going to get to accomplish what he wants.
Yeah, how he wants to play it is going to be difficult because right now there's 3 targets that ideally you're jumping in and stunning out and helping get a kill on between Scream, Veronica, and Stuart. And the one that doesn't get jumped on and potentially deleted, or the 2 that don't get jumped on and potentially deleted, still in a good enough spot here for the Solar Scarabs to kind of run the fights over on the other end. Wondered what direction Inbound would go with his last relic. Frenzy is the answer. Received slight buffs in the 8.9 update. And so team fighting now feels a little bit better here, Gore, for the Solar Scarabs with that active pickup from Inbound. Frenzy plus Sprint is a whole lot of rundown all at once.
That's it's a frightening amount of rundown. That's, enhanced by Bakasura. He should be, at least when he backs the next time, with an Erendite, but already on top of that, the Butcher Blades, the damage that he has. Then you're going to add in that ultimate that's going to slow and help people kind of stay in place for them. It's a good team fight for the Scarabs, and this is a good grouping for them. Pyromancer is probably the immediate thing on their mind, but if they can win a fight around it, they're absolutely going to turn this into a fire.
Scarabs are playing so quickly that there's not going to be a fight. The Jade Dragons don't even step up to the Pyromancer. Are you going to step up to the Fire Giant, though? This objective much bigger, much scarier, 16.5 minutes in. This is what the Dragons do to other teams. You don't do this to the Jade Dragons. Are you able to do so, though? Polar Bear Mike gets knocked off. Big damage onto Scream, and Scream goes down first at the hands of Final K. Watched out backline. The Nike is here. SOT still running things on the other back line, though. Big damage from Baronic over the wall. Keeps this fight somewhat interesting. Panda Cat wasn't even here this entire time. The Jade Dragons choose their time to strike, and Panda Cat puts one down, and it's Baronic who's MIA, same for Soccer, the only casualty for the Dragons.
All right, look, Solar Troll, you've been working some magic this game, but yeah, this one might even be too much for you. With Panda Cat, half mana, full health, and if he gets that stun, I think that's a kill.
Agreed.
Luckily, it ends up slowing things down. They should be able to disengage. That's a huge... I mean, understatement. That is a massive turnaround for the Dragons. This game is in control of the Scarabs, and the fact that they get to the back line so quickly, they get rid of Scream before anything can happen that fight, and that is such a huge, huge kill for them. It made it so much easier than roll into Stewart, roll into Baronic. If the last two standing on the Scarabs are Baronic and Stewart, then you're still able to get aggressive, you're still fighting. The fact that it's the front lines, yeah, it slows you down, but admittedly, you got every single high-priority target you needed to in that fight. You burn a couple of beats, an Aegis. You feel really good after that if you're the Dragons. Still down by a lot in gold, but that is promising.
Inbound. Is he going to get collapsed on here? Not ideal synergy there between PBM and Panda Cat, but it looks like Inbound will die nonetheless. Great Taiko drums, though, from Baronic. Taunting a couple members of the Jade Dragons, but here's the chase, here's the follow-up, and here's the death at the hands of Hurrywind for Stewart. Panda Cat up in the air, and he's going to jump back in aggressively. SOT still has his ultimate if need be. Final K drops a slow onto Scream, and the disarm will go miles in keeping this Bakasura in check. Lawbringer used from SOT here to go up and over out of this fight. Dashes out of the knockup, and the Jade Dragons go find another couple picks. And suddenly this Tiamat has come alive 18 minutes in. We have talked plenty about the scaling of the Bakasura. Cannot ignore the mid laner for the Dragons.
Yeah, and this is the biggest thing. Look, Nike's going to be starting to show a lot of prowess. We've seen the slows in these last couple of fights, so that's something to be worried about. But Tiamat, and I would argue this is where Geb really gets to shine. That could have been a much more devastating fight in favor of the Dragons, and that's saying something. They got 2 kills. If they hadn't had to use things so discordantly, there was just a little bit of like... I mean, admittedly, it starts when Panda Cat misses the stun, but then the ults are dropped in a weird way, then Cataclysm is used, but just to get one guy stunned. Still rolls into a really good fight for the Dragons, so at the end of the day, it's not a big deal, and you can see a huge divide in that gold lead and a huge dip from what the Scarabs had.
Still a lead.
But still a lead.
Still a lead for the Solar Scarabs. Much less than it was. We were right at like 6K. And we're down to about 1.5, and that's where we were hovering for the first like 10 minutes of this game. Remember, the Solar Scarabs early on, solo kill for SOT. Scream helps out with the kill in the mid lane, and the Solar Scarabs for a little while there, from 4 to call it 9.5 minutes, we're right at that like 1,500 gold. You see that gold plateau, and then the Scarabs start to drive things, but then the Jade Dragons, with a call, not a bluff, that's not the right word, but a call on the starting of the FG from the Solar Scarabs by the Jade Dragons, really where this game turns around. You get the Pyromancer quickly, the Dragons don't show up. Maybe if you're the Scarabs, you're not expecting them to be that quick, them being the Dragons, at answering that Fire Giant, and that's really where this game is turned.
And not only that big fight, but realistically, this is where the problems have been for the Scarabs, right? Their early games have been looking really good. First off, I see the Oppa ward that's down there. I love that. But also...
Favorite ward in the game. Correct.
I have to say that this is where they've been struggling in a lot of their games. It's when they have this early lead and get to the late game fights.
Scream and Sam, 1v1 on left. Scream is going to win that one. Sam for Soccer will ult away. Inbound caught in between every one of the Jade Dragons here. Inbound falls to 0-3 on the Sylvanas. And Hurrywind helps out on that one. SOT around the back of the Jade Dragons here. Sam for Soccer had to use his Aegis. And so we still see Gore, where the power for the Scarabs lies, and that 1v1 between Scream and Sam for Soccer not giving you a lot of confidence if you're this Loki. Scream handily won that, got the Aegis out of Sam. And so that's maybe where you can find an advantage in these fights.
It's a big deal that Scream was the first to die in the last engagement. I think if you can kill off Scream early on, it makes your life so much easier. The fact that Inbound is getting picked on a little bit also makes things easier for the Dragons, not having to worry about a Sylvanas. But that Bakasura, it's just a wild card.
Final K jumps over the wall into the Fearless of SOT. But SOT, not liking his odds, will go back beneath the Tier 1 tower. Pyromancer is respawned here. A much easier target for the Jade Dragons to take down. Will the Solar Scarabs answer it? The answer is no. And Gore, now this game brought ever so closer back to even. Still about 1.5K. But at some point, I think we gotta move away from the numbers on the charts and just talk about momentum, kind of that intangible direction that this game is headed. And the Jade Dragons have had all the momentum over the last 5 or so minutes.
It's a lot of pressure, I think, to be under if you're the Scarabs here, because you know
you
can burn objectives, and they're going to try to, but this is a dangerous game.
This is where the game turned around a few moments ago as an FG call by the Solar Scarab. Polar Bear Mike walks into the back line.
Good beads.
Damage, but beads from Baronic will keep him in the fight. All the shielding from Mike will keep him up in this fight a little bit longer, but the back line of the Solar Scarabs takes this Sentinel of Zeus, and Hurrywind is here to play. Scream on the back line, loses a 2v1 to Panda Cat and Sam for Soccer. In final case, holding down the fort here on right, exactly what you need to see. You lose PBM, happy to do it if Scream is the casualty on the other side.
Yeah, it's a really good choice for them to pick, but SOT's going to go back in.
SOT goes back in, getting a lot of damage onto Panda Cat. SOT does not have his ultimate, but does he have the guts to chase this out? Low HP on both of the carries. This is the type of play that SOT wants to make. He will walk beneath the Tier 1 tower and will walk right on out, you assume. Hurrywind cancel his back. No, he won't. Well, Panda Cat cancel his back. No, he won't. And SOT won't go for the big play this time. Instead, just pushing up the wave.
They have to be in constant communication right there. And admittedly, delaying those backs is heavily. SOT just made sure that a Fire Giant didn't happen here. At least it didn't happen as fast as it could have, and gives Scream time to come back and respawn. It's a small little play, but creating that much space and making sure the Dragons aren't able to get a full reset slows this down, opens up the window of opportunity for them, gets some of their ults back online as well. Inbound's back here. I like seeing that. Get out of there. We've seen too many times around a Fire Giant where inbound has been two steps too far forward, and it's cost them the game.
Hurrywind will step forward here. And inbound will as well, and takes a nice chunk of damage from Hurrywind. Fire Giant low, beneath half HP. The rest of the Dragons, are you going to stick on it? The answer is yes. We have not reset it yet, but SOT going into the FG pit, but just a little too late, and all of the CC makes its way onto the tier, but it's not enough. Scream has the opening kill here, and the rest of the Scarabs will kite backwards, but Scream, full HP in the backline. PBM providing some CC, but the knockup not there. Stewart walks in. Jade Dragons lose 1. Jade Dragons lose 2. 2 of them at the hands of Scream. The third earlier on in the fight, and the Dragons get the Fire Giant, but it only sticks on 2.
Yeah, and honestly, not the best members to have it. Sam, who might still fall down here with some damage. Veronic gets the hit, and that's a good 4 for swing. And 2 towers left, just Mike, but this health bar, you're going to be cutting it close.
I think you have a minion wave. Phoenix maybe.
Definitely Phoenix.
But Sam's got 40, Panda Cat's got 30.
I think you can do it. I think with Hurrywind, I don't think Hurry's enough.
Right now it's just Mike. You need 10 seconds till Hurrywind comes back. There's the first bit of CC connecting. Solar Scarabs walking into the Titan room. We're going to get a good look at how much damage this team can do. 5 seconds on Hurrywind, no more PBM, and the Solar Scarabs have controlled game 2. And they will indeed send us to a game 3.
A lot of that is Scream, man. That Bakasura gets into the back line, does so much for their team during that fight. Makes it a lot easier to continue that aggression and onslaught. I mean, killing off Hurry immediately. Fire Giant does a little bit of work for him, too. That opens up an opportunity for them. But then they continue rolling forward and do a great job in that team fight.
There's something about this Scarabs team and going down like big in game 1.
They said it themselves. They straight up admitted. They were like, yeah, we suck at game 1. They don't know why. When I asked them why, they didn't know. But they will admit that they do not like their game 1s.
Something has to be said here for the Solar Scarabs. Prior to game 3 and whatever gets decided in game 3, the Scarabs have now gone 3 games against top 4 teams in the league between the Titans, the Kings, and the Jade Dragons. Yep. Still a great chance to still win this set for the Scarabs, but regardless of how it turns out, the Scarabs team has stepped up big against the big teams here in this league and a chance to win their first set of the phase against the Jade Dragons. Can the Dragon Slayers do it again? Stick around and find out.
I gave up dabbing for Lynn.
Cool. No more dabbing for Final. He looked at me and said, I'm going to be on that stage next year. I'm going to become a world champion.
Hello and welcome back to the SMITE Pro League. Getting ready to go into Game 3. Let's give a shout out to our title sponsor for the SMITE Pro League in Alienware. Thank you so much for providing the big PCs and all the fancy peripherals that you can see. The Aurora Ryzen 10 desktop that the pros are playing on right now, just like Inbound was playing on in the studio. You can even get the 25-inch 240Hz gaming monitor. All that at smitegame.com/Alienware. Use code SMITEAW. Get yourself some nice codes. And you even join Alienware by following their social media at Twitter and Instagram at Alienware or on their website, alienwarearena.com. Hopping in now, getting ready for game number 3, but let's talk about game number 2 here a little bit, Mifflin. Looked like startup, Solar Scarabs, they're looking to run away with it. Jade Dragons, they put a nice little halt at that Fire Giant fight, that first one, but then lightning doesn't strike twice here. Solar Scarabs, they really put the punish on them at that second Fire Giant.
They did, man. What was it? 2 people that got away with Fire Giant, and maybe only 1 because Sanford Soccer barely lived past that point. The Solar Scarabs were in control very early on. SOT, a standout player inside of this one, was able to turn around, what was it, a 1 versus 3 in his lane at one point, trying to find Mike inside the tower. I believe it was this play. Uses the heal, immediately switches stances, and puts the kibosh to the Jade Dragons all on his own. But I would be doing a disservice to Twitch chat if I don't say this, and I will preface it by saying that Inbound caught me on the way into this room and told me to say exactly this. Bobby started Sylvanas in the SMITE Pro League by running scrims with it, and every time he plays Sylvanas, it is just a highlight reel. I said it, Bobby. You're going to leave me alone now.
Yeah, you got your one in there, Bobby, but to be fair to Bobby, he was also one of the only people who played it before this patch, back in phase number 2. I mean, this is a god that got a win for them against the Bolts in phase number 2. Took the Bolts to game 3. Now they're taking the Dragons here to game number 3. Should be a surefire sparks flying match, but Scream on this Bakasura. You put a lot of emphasis on what this Bakasura can do, and it lived up to its name here in game number 2. Some big highlight reel moments for Scream himself on this god.
Yeah, going 6-3-4 on an incredibly unorthodox pick. Name another, or name something that represents Scream more so as a player. I don't think you could, just playing these off-brand weirdo picks and then doing incredibly well on it. Able to establish 15,000 damage, just about the second highest on his team here. Third highest within the lobby. Final K actually gets props for the most damage, but unfortunately for him, Final K did not win. Solar Scarabs control the early, flounder a little bit in the mid, then control the late for a very decisive end.
I mean, that wrap around the team fight at the Fire Giant, that was Scream just saying, okay, my front line will deal with your front line, but who's going to help your backliners out? Goes for a 2v1, gets a nice pick, and then allows Stewart to charge for it. I think he got a 3-man mounted archery shot that ends up setting up a kill for him.
Pretty good.
And then a double kill for Scream to tail in the fight, and then they just hunt down Sam. Sam decides he wants to loop around the back. I'll go to the back harpies. And Veronica says, no, those are my back harpies, and that's your life gone. Game number 3, picks and bans. Let's bring them in and see where everything falls into place for this third one. The Solar Scarabs looking hot in game number 2. The Jade Dragons will take that first pick spot away from them here, electing to take it themselves.
So we'll see how the bans roll out now. I doubt we see too many targeted bans. It wouldn't be a trip if we saw something like a Bakasura ban here from the Jade Dragons. I doubt that's going to come to fruition. More likely, we see some standard bans rolling through. Circuit, maybe fringe standard inside of that first phase. Not something we see all the time, but not something we're overly surprised to see the Jade Dragons take away inside of that first slot. And the Solar Scarabs now in a position to look towards their own. I'm thinking we're going to see a lot of what we saw in Game 2. From both of these teams as far as drafts are concerned. The Solar Scarabs going for a bit more early game aggression, good lane pressure. The Jade Dragons probably going to try and bring a little bit more what they had inside of Game 1 as far as team fight presence. It seems like both of these squads have made adaptations between Games 1 and 2. So maybe we see wide sweeping changes here in Game 3, man. Always a treat to watch.
I'm honestly surprised the Dragons didn't try and go for a very early Raijin last time around. This is one of their most highly picked top 3 gods is this Raijin. So the fact that they've kind of just let it go to the wayside a little bit, especially in Game 2, giving that one over to Baronic, who's shown that he wants the Raijin more than he wants the Tiamat. I mean, we saw the Tiamat go all the way to the latter half of the draft before it gets locked in. But as far as the first bans go, it's a triple assassin, one with the Circuit, who does have that flexibility more often towards the support role nowadays, and then the Hunbot Susano, so still putting a lot of focus against Sam for Soccer. And the Jade Dragons, they are having no more of this Raijin. They're going to ban it away for their third slot right behind that RDO.
If the Scarabs don't use their third ban for Tiamat, I think it's pretty likely that the Jade Dragons go for that pick in their first slot, but something else that has been getting a lot of first pick priority between all of these games has been that Khepri, which is still available as it stands right now. But the new guard of Guardians, the Khepri, the Sylvanas, and the Geb, all still remain available here. So the Solar Scarabs have a tough decision ahead of them, as they have used their first 2 bans just to go towards Sanford Soccer's God Pool, Hoonbots, and Susano. Removed from the table here, and it will be Zhang Kui to round out the ban phase here for the Solar Scarabs. That's interesting, man. That's a very interesting play. So now, if the Jade Dragons do take Tiamat or any other carry for themselves, they can't rely on that AoE damage of Zhang Kui to make it a little bit harder for a Scarab's Blessing to find its target. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Solar Scarabs take the Khepri here.
Look at that sweet armband that Mike is rocking. You can
Where
pick
can
one
I buy
of the shop.smiteproleague.com.
No shot.
Yeah,
What?
Yeah, you can go right there. It comes there with Inside Apparel providing that to you. Unfortunately, it will not make you any stronger like this, though it could make you if you wear that to the gym or out anywhere else. So make sure to pick one of those up if you want to have a nice armband like Mike. Mike's really making it work here. Uller as a first pick for the Jade Dragons. It's a big one for him. It worked out so well in game number 1, enough to where it had to get banned in game number 2. So the Jade Dragons get something big for Panda Cat right out the gate.
They do. Panda Cat has been having a great performance here so far inside of this set, and Ull's a god to keep that momentum rolling going forward. Now, the Solar Scarabs in the second pick position can find themselves going towards some priority picks. And how did I forget about this one? Odin finally works his way through a ban phase and gets locked in, snatched up immediately by the Scarabs this time around. Has flex potential, could go support, could go jungle, more than likely headed for that solo lane, and Tiamat going to be locked in. And we had, who was it earlier this week, Paul in the interview say that there are top 2 mages inside of the game. It's pretty clear and definitive. Raijin and Tiamat. Raijin banned, Tiamat not banned, and Tiamat picking up.
Yeah, just to make sure to get something big here in the mid lane, sure to get one of those, as Paul claimed, top 2 mages. Though maybe with that 8.10 and even with the bonus palettes, maybe we'll see a little bit of a shift in those mid lanes, but we're not there right now. We're here in the now, and the 8.9, and Tiamat Raijin still reigning supreme amongst the mid laners. So making sure to grab a top pick for the mid lane of the Solar Scarabs. They'll grab that and the Odin. And it's kind of easy to sometimes forget about Odin because of how often he gets banned away in the first phase by these teams. The fact he was able to slip through, a lot of that is thanks to what's so great about game number 3s in SMITE is that it comes down, game number 1, it's a lot of meta. Game 2, some meta, a little bit of target. Game 3, you see a lot of more targeted focus bans taking individual players out. So you get to see gods like this Odin slip through, even gods like this Geb make it through again with the Cabrakan, and then Bobby gets to go back on that Sylvanas one more time. Maybe we'll get to see another highlight reel out of the support.
The progenitor of the Sylvanas inside of the SPL back at it again in a game 3 situation. Up against the Jade Dragons. Solar Scarabs now have themselves a pretty scary draft here, man. Odin shifts up how you have to pay attention to these picks and ban phases, or these team fights rather, and up against things like the Cabrakan and the Geb, you got some pretty easy to lock down targets. Maybe we see the Jade Dragons try and pick up a Phantom within the early game if they so choose, and with Cabrakan locked in, I think that is more than likely headed for Final K inside of the solo lane. We have seen in the past guys like Cherio like to take this Cabrakan into the jungle, but it's not one that I expect Sanford Soccer to keep their eyes towards. And speaking of those targeted bans you were just talking about, Jade Dragons take Bakasura away. They don't want to play against it again.
No, they don't want to go against that. The Scarabs do not want to fight against some of Sam's big picks between the Hoonbots and Susano in the first phase, and now a Pele Raven in the second phase of ban. Scarabs pretty much have gone with almost an exclusive jungle ban category
they don't
here.
Like Sam.
Nobody. I don't think anybody wants to go.
Sam?
No, people like Sam. People don't like going against Sam.
Okay, fair.
Is the point I was trying to get there, and the Solar Scarabs are making that very well known here. They could have probably easily slotted that Zhang Kui for another assassin just to try and further put him back. And then a Cupid as a ban here by the Jade Dragons. A very interesting one to kind of throw out of the mix, but maybe serves a little bit of that similar purpose to the Bakasura with that Fields of Love.
Yeah, Cupid is a pick that, Stewart's gone towards a couple of times in the past, has great kill pressure, and with the Sylvanas could make some waves inside of the early game, but instead it is going to be the Ho Yi locked in. I'm glad that I talked to myself in circles for a second there. I was going to predict something like the Heimdall or maybe even the Hachiman or something along those lines, but instead it is a high kill pressure selection here for Stewart out of the duo lane. But, well, a god that has already been locked in a couple of times at the SPL level, a Wheelish picked up by the Jade Dragons, and Wheelish has got some pretty good matchups here. It's been the tried and true counter matchup into Odin. And, well, that's going to be pretty easy to lock him down. Bird Bomb going to consume 2 of his abilities with Gravity Rush, or even Ho-Yi once he uses his own leap. It's one of the slowest ones in the game. Pretty easy to line up a Wheelish's ult.
Man, remember when the Ho-Yi leap used to be you kind of sit there and you hover around the air and you just kind of snake your way through the air before you crash down? Man, those were the best days for the Wheelish. You can still do some similar practices against him. That leap is very slow out of the Ho-Yi, and the fact that a Wheelish herself not only got some buffs, but then all the items around a Wheelish got buffed in this patch. I'm surprised it took Sam so long to finally bust this god out. He's one of the only players who was throwing this god out here before the buffs. Now we're getting some post buffs, and then a Nemesis as a final lock-in here for the Solar Scarabs to get a little bit of extra damage, get some protection shred over anything else to try and fight against this, because that is a tanky front line that the Jade Dragons are going to be throwing at the Scarabs between that Cabrakan and especially between that Geb.
So it's pretty clear now what the team fight is going to look like for the Solar Scarabs. It's either going to be a lockdown by Odin inside of the cage, or maybe the ultimate from Sylvanas immediately followed up by more circular ultimates, the Ho-Yi ultimate, the Tiamat's damage follow-up, and throughout all of that, if at any point you feel like you don't have enough damage to finish those kills, well, you've got the ultimate from Nemesis to make sure that they do hit pay dirt inside of this one. Whereas the Jade Dragons, a little bit more so standard in how they're electing to play this one. It is a spearhead composition. Cabrakan and Geb going to be initiating the majority of these fights, and a Wheelish looking to finish them once somebody decides to leap out. You get caged in by the Cabrakan, use your jump, come on right back, Gravity Surge. You get cataclysmed by the Geb, you're going to sit there for a little while, or if you eat the shockwave afterward, maybe just come back here, Gravity Surge.
Yeah, and you're really going to be one of the only gods on this team that's going to be able to help out Sam as far as getting pulls. A lot of that's going to come down to his own, or making sure to punish some of those greedier leaps from the Ho-Yi or the Odin. Kind of the tried and true counter matchup against the Odin is this a Wheelish. Almost as soon as her Inception came into Smite, every Odin player kind of had that fear because it is one of the slower leaps in the game out of all of the gods there. But throwing over in the solo lane means we're not going to see it for a little bit of time out of the Solar Scarab. It's not going to be till we get towards those closer kind of mid-lane or mid-game rotations over towards some of these objectives. We'll see the Odin start to come into play, but man, that's when SOT really starts to shine, is when he can make his way over towards these objectives.
Yeah, but he does have to play pretty safe. The early game is not safe for Odin up against this composition whatsoever. The damage output of Cabrakan and a Wheelish together could make it very hard for this guy to hit the ground running. I think the Jade Dragons have a good composition for establishing early pressure. A Wheelish can do a lot of it on her own. I've coined Feather Step as the level 6 execute. That's how much damage it does.
It does
Ghoul
hurt
as well, with the buffs recently in 8.9. Also, essentially has an execute once he uses his entire kit. So, I'm pretty excited for this one. Seems like both of these teams are coming out swinging.
Seems like you're kind of favoring the Wheelish a little bit more. They're saying the level 6 execute with just Feather Step, but then Ullr's got to drop his entire kit forward. Either way, the Jade Dragons and the Solar Scarabs, we're going to game number 3. Let's take it right there. We don't want to miss any of this.
The Solar Scarabs do it again. They push us on to a game 3 against the team that in Phase 2 finished in the upper half of the league. Gore, Scarabs, not a team that shy away from moments like this. They have not successfully won a game 3 yet this phase, but they give themselves a great opportunity to do so here. Some fun picks in the jungle, and that's where I want to start. You got Sam for Soccer on a Wheelish on one side, Scream on the Nemesis over on the other. Big potential for blow-up level damage.
The Nemesis is the one that catches my eye. Look, again, we talked about it last game specifically because of Heroine, but like the Tiamat, it's going to take a little bit longer to get online than what we're expecting out of the Soul, so you do want this Nemesis being able to strip protections, make you do a little bit more damage, maybe engage things as Frenzy.
What?
Of all things was popped
And
over
sprint.
here.
And
the sprint, yeah, Mike is actually having to run the long way around just to get out of here. But it's the Wheelish that catches my eye because there's actually not just the blatant synergy. You've got Geb knock up, that makes easy work for your ult.
Yeah, of course.
But you actually have synergy because of the Cabrakan walls, and it's just because someone's going to have to jump over it. Whether it's Stuart, Baronic, Solar Troll, and that's going to be another easy pull for you. So FineOK as well as PBM as well as just straight up Sam are going to have plenty of ways to really set themselves up to find really good ults throughout this game.
SOT back into the solo lane on the back of an incredible performance in Game 2. Got a solo kill over FineOK and drove every ounce of pressure that the right side of the map was feeling throughout the early and the mid game there. Different look for him. You don't have the tier. You don't have kind of the face roll, mash all your keys style of play. Though the positioning may be somewhat similar here, Gore. You're going to toss that shield on yourself, jump in, and hopefully find some good cage off targets. And that's going to be important here because, look, you talked about the walls that FineOK is able to put down and some of the escapes that the Solar Scarabs have in moments like that. These walls go down from SOT. You do have some jumps on out, but there are a couple targets, namely Hurrywind.
Yeah.
I think that are a great target for SOT with these cages.
Hurry, Fine, and PBM. Admittedly, 2 of those you're maybe not killing
Sam
as
is here.
fast. But something that's going to go. Solar Troll, I was actually mindset.
flip it
I was
around.
flipped. I was like, man, Solar Troll just jumped away from his
Went the
tower.
wrong
No,
way.
he's just fine. With that low mana, I was expecting maybe a little bit of a peek from Sam. And he did, exactly. A little bit of a peek where he was like, nah, nothing's happening. And go ahead and back
We're
off.
gonna
I
invade
really
blue.
like the way this is, though, because you're leveraging an early game pressure that only you really have.
FineOK and Sam for soccer. Rotate to right, steal away the blue. And that feels real bad right about now for SOT, who has no mana on this Odin here in the solo lane. So you're going to have to farm it up just a good old-fashioned way, and then FineOK and Sam will go back, confirm his own blue buff. And so where does Scream spend this time? Over in mid lane, helping confirm that red buff for Baronic in the mid. Need some time to level up on this pick. Myth expects score, I think level 5, level 6 for Sam for soccer. The level 6 power spike Mifflin was referencing on the desk there. Just a couple levels away, and we might see the jungle get a little bit more active. Might see the mid lane get more active here. Hurrywind jumped on, but disapparate. Well,
What a pull!
Inbound, great pull, but there's no follow-up damage from the rest of the team. Is going to make Hurrywind uncomfortable enough to use the beads. And PBM used the sprint, so we're going to steal away a couple of the smaller creeps around this red. And inbound starting to hit those pulls early. Maybe a good repeat performance here from the Scarab support.
Yeah, your ideal world. Jeez, Stuart, you got to be careful over here, man. This is not a good look. But ultimately, he's going to be fine. Panda Cat eats a lot of mana. I say that, but there's Sam.
Sam is here as well. Purple buff not up and ready to be invaded. Just some pressure from Sam for soccer. And that was real close to an early kill here in this game. Hurrywind gets low. You get the follow-up pull from inbound. If nothing else, pressure plus beads onto Hurrywind, especially with, really just the disapparate for disengage, is a good start for the Solar Scarabs in mid.
I thought you were trying to give me an equation. Pressure plus beads equals...
Equals what?
I guess... I don't know. I guess...
Maybe,
like,
yeah.
I don't know. Someone,
Return gank.
someone who's funnier than me is going to make that into a good joke. And I present this as a challenge to you. What is pressure plus beads?
I was going to say return gank, but that's not all that funny. So I imagine someone funnier than both of us will have a better answer here for that one. Hurrywind able to stay alive despite that pressure flowing in mid lane. It's going to be another blue buff invade here for the Jade Dragons. FineOK throws out the Trembles, but this time the Scarabs answering in force. Same 3 players for both teams over here on right. FineOK wants it. FineOK unable to get it. What's the cost? Polar Bear Mike is going to bail out his solo laner. SOT jumps in, inbound, with pathing that would have gotten him back in range of FineOK, but will choose to back away. Doesn't feel great. I mean, it's good that you get your blue buff if you're SOT. You don't want to triple split it. But a good answer back from the Solar Scarabs after a blue buff invade just a moment ago.
Especially because they've been able to get just a little bit. Admittedly, it was the small Harpies on red, but having a blue buff invade, having some of that go their way as well, helps counteract, I think, where the Dragons have been able to find what was maybe a 100 gold lead. I mean, it hasn't really been a huge swing. And that, honestly, this early on means that first blood bounty really does feel like it's going to be good.
We could not be more even if we tried. 43 gold and 150 XP. And that difference on FineOK right now, but it might swing back to the Solar Scarabs.
What a good
Cage
stun.
is out. FineOK finds a nice stun, finds a nice wall, but it's not nice enough. And SOT on the board first, but PBM rotates in late here. And Sam for soccer get a pull off of the knockup as PBM spent too much time in lane. Cataclysm on the other side, knock up there. SOT pulled back through. The beads are on the other side though, and SOT jumps on a PBM. It's a double kill for the Odin. And luckily, Sam is able to get one.
Yeah, I mean, you get one. You're the jungler. You're happy. But I think you're really sad in the long run. You lose PBM in a place where maybe he shouldn't have a 2v3 that feels like it was ill-advised, even though you get a kill out of it. And, of course, FineOK just gets caught off by the gank. That's just good play from the Scarabs reading the map and recognizing where they need to go. Plus, admittedly, not a Gold Fury, but you still get something with that big rotation from the Dragons over into the other lane. And yeah, get yourselves, well, Scorpion as well. And that red buff's about to come up, so it's going to be enhanced. It just feels good.
Hurrywind dodges out everything he needs to there. Had beads. but don't want to burn those, especially with low mana. Might have been a kill there for the Solar Scarabs. SOT on the back of a double kill, still going to receive some blue buff pressure here by PBM and FineOK. And maybe it's no surprise, Gore, that we're seeing the supports kind of living over here, the jungles as well, after the volatility of Game 2. And the back and forth nature of that lane really felt like FineOK on the Nike as well. Kind of helped the Dragons get back into that game. Solar Scarabs, SOT out of the solo lane with Tier kind of helped sealed it. And so the blue buffs in this early pressure, avoiding one lead going one way or another of pivotal importance. So maybe no surprise that we're seeing a little extra emphasis here on right.
And I like the fact that they are at least providing a little bit more pressure, although the ward game from the Scarabs on right is insane. They have it on lock versus the Dragons with a lot of vision.
Yeah, we know where this is.
Left.
Right, we know where PBM is. He's going to roll right into SOT, who's going to back right on away. So while you don't get the kill, you are able to strip away some of those back camps, and that feels all right. The re-engage, though, is it here? Is it now? Do the Solar Scarabs want to fight? PBM could and does take a stun and an ultimate, and a cage is around him, and damage from Veronic. Cataclysm not nearly enough. There is a pull right back through onto Inbound, but Inbound happy to be there. He'll turn around this fight. Pull no good onto FineOK, and it's a right side kill and another one for SOT. The dash in, the dash out from Scream keeps this fight rolling. FineOK low on health, lower on mana. Hurrywin, can you make something happen? You've got your ultimate. You don't have a lot of mana. Is SOT gonna continue his onslaught? My goodness, this guy cannot be stopped. And a nice trade back kill for FineOK.
That's actually a great kill to be able to pick up if you're killing off Scream.
Man, he's got no mana.
They're going to get aggressive. Good pull.
Oh, great pull from Inbound. Sanford Soccer's got to jump away. Will SOT hit the stun that this Scarabs team needs? Kind of playing tentatively here. A little ticky-tack back and forth, waiting for the right target to pop up. PBM back into the fight. Sanford Soccer's low here. Is SOT going to get enough damage on the end to go tower diving? No, he won't. It looks like the onslaught of this Odin has been stopped finally. 3-1-0 is SOT, all three of the kills for the Scarabs.
And it's a good place to put him. This Odin has been essential. And what a good route.
You gotta hit the pull. Doesn't need it anyway. Baronic under the tower, and Hurrywin goes down. The Scarabs starting to run away with Game 3.
Finally picking up some kills. Admittedly, it sucked originally that Scream died, and it felt like, what was it, a 1-for-1? But now you're starting to pick up a couple more kills, and it feels a lot better overall for the Scarabs. It's still, again, small leads as of right now, but 1 level in the jungle, 1 level in mid, 2 levels in support. And Inbound's pulls, Inbound's roots have been on point, at least enough to get them a couple of kills. Maybe you would have preferred it happening a little sooner there in mid. But now we're starting to get to see why this Sylvanas is so highly coveted and how well the Scarabs are able to play it.
Oh my, great stun and jump in from Stewart. Ultimate's going to go out as well. Panda Cat uses the beads, has no mana. So minions will walk forward, but Scream not going to roll the dice on a tower dive, not just yet. Satisfying wave clear from Hurrywind, I might add. But
yes. I was thinking the exact same thing, and I had no idea how to bring it up.
You throw out one ability, clears the entire wave.
And like with all those archers that were there, like that just felt
feels good. It feels great. It's like right up there with the Wombo combo. A big fight happens. You love moments like that. SOT and FineOK continue to brawl out here on right. And Gore, you're getting these early indicators that SOT is going to be the driving force today for the Solar Scarabs team. Scream has had some great games as well. Bakasura in Game 2 looked great for the jungler. But I think doing a disservice to Solo or Troll in the games that he's had today to not bring him up here. 3-1-0 on the Odin. And a great chance to get the Solar Scarabs their first win of the phase.
And a really good team if they're able to do it up against the Dragons. Granted, it's been a very weird matchup, like to the point where when group stages were being decided, I think it was in Phase 1, people were like, put the Scarabs with the Dragons, lock them together, like that's going to be a lot of trouble. And admittedly, it ended up being trouble, I think, for the Kings more than it ended up being for the Dragons.
It is Gold Fury started out by the Jade Dragons, the Solar Scarabs. No, it is the Jade Dragons. I got it right the first time. They're behind, so I was surprised that they were doing it. But doing it, they do. And Gore, it was a 1,000 gold lead wiped out in one moment. Right back to even in the gold department, 600 in the experience department. And that is a quick and obviously, to me, a surprising call from the Jade Dragons to even up the gold.
And it's not only evening up the gold, but admittedly, save for Hurrywin, who's probably just a little bit behind in terms of experience, ultimately equal. Again, we're right back to where we were a few minutes ago. just with a couple more kills on the board and more items in the pockets for these players. You have a really good Divine Ruin and Dominance picked up by Scream. He's the one that I'm keeping my eye on the most because this Nemesis needs to be essential. I mean, that Bakasura made so many big plays.
This is brutal. Panda Cat's just got to watch this happen. Inbound walks under the tower, gets stunned by Panda Cat, and the last shot will be there. Panda Cat makes Inbound pay for overextending. Same for Soccer's here on the backside of this fight as well. Gore, that was telegraphed and then some. I mean, every member of the Jade Dragons knew that was about to happen, and it happened anyway. Inbound, maybe there's no other route to go. The Jade Dragons are going to be rotating in from behind you. Oh no, but Scream gets one shot by FineOK as well, technically two with the punch and the follow-up. But those are the types of trip-ups you can't make up against the Jade Dragons.
And admittedly, those are the types of trip-ups I was referencing in Game 2. Luckily, we didn't have to see any then. But you have a decent lead that gets taken away by Gold Fury, and then you have 2 kills immediately that come out for the Dragons. Plus, they get a tower. I mean, it's not the end of the world for the Scarabs. But those are those moments, like you said. You just cannot let those happen. It slows the game down for you dramatically, and it really does help enhance a little bit more of what the Dragons are going to be able to do with their gameplay.
Luckily for the Solar Scarabs, at 12.5 minutes, things could be a lot worse than 700 gold and 700 XP. I mean, as close to even as even can get when you're sub 1,000 in both of those categories. So, despite a bit of a telegraph dive, some awkward pathing required from Inbound there, 2 kills going back to the Jade Dragons. It has not flung this game in one direction or the other. Important for FineOK to get a couple of the kills here in this game after SOT has started off with a killing spree, keep the solo lane even. So Pyromancer looked at by the Jade Dragons, Inbound close by here as well. Baronic from over the wall can send some damage towards the Pyro. Might be able to steal this one away. First bit of damage connects onto the front line. Pull back in onto Inbound. Goodbye Sylvanas and goodbye Pyromancer. The Jade Dragons got both. That's a big jump in from SOT.
What a good cage!
Damage, massive cage. But you gotta follow up. You need some damage here if you're the Solar Scarabs. You've got a little bit. Baronic jumps right back through. FineOK on a killing spree. But returning the favor immediately are the Solar Scarabs. 2-for-2 trade around the Pyro. Hurry uses his Aegis. SOT gonna run him down.
And he's got a shield, though. He's gonna stay alive. A good knockup. This could actually be a turnaround.
Ruin stays alive. Will he survive yet again? No, he won't. SOT puts him down. These teams are scrapping. And SOT a chance to get a kill on a PBM at the end.
Yeah, Mike has no mana to work with. Sot has a lot. But he's going to let it fall right there. I figured he was going to go continually, maybe even tower dive.
Yeah, it's SOT. I'm thinking he's got no health. We're going under the tower. No chance.
And that just goes to show why level 12, I anticipate Mike's going to pick up a Phantom. For you can't get caught like that. That was such a good cage from SOT.
Nuts.
And admittedly, 3 for 3. Both kills, or teams are at 7-7. You get the Pyromancer, and that's pretty much where your lead is right now if you're the Dragons. That's where that gold is. The experience is the same spot. I mean, this is nuts the way that they're playing. But again, we've seen one slip-up. I just hope that the Scarabs keep it that clean from this point on.
An important turnaround in this game. PBM has been like 2 levels down from Inbound since like minute 4 or 5. Since Inbound on the Sylvanas got those 4 assists. PBM is now a level up over Inbound, and so that's a big turnaround. PBM, if you would have told me 5 minutes ago Mike was going to beat Inbound to his second relic, I wouldn't have believed you, but we're here and we're in that world now. A big turnaround from the Geb after what was a rough start, and that's an important trend as well. Stewart, we're going diving. Panda Cat does it again. We have seen these 2v1 turnarounds already, and add another to the highlight reel for Panda Cat, and this Uber, the Aegis
what a shield!
The shield!
Oh, what a turnaround!
As well. You gotta be kidding me! Panda Cat nearly does it to him, but Mike will put the second one down anyway. Panda Cat with a big play will fall, but makes it as good as possible for the Dragons.
I mean, that was borderline top play material for potentially the year if that goes their way. Really, really good mental from Mike to be able to pick up that kill, but Panda Cat loses out on both relics, opens up an opportunity for Scream in the future, as well as in these next couple of fights. You've got a Primal Fury respawning that opens up a point of contention on the map. And with Hurwind admittedly getting a tier 1 tower, opening up a little bit more of the map, the Scarabs are going to have more difficulty pushing forward than they've had in the last couple of minutes. And a lot of it, again, I'm looking in the jungle right now. Sam has had some really, really good moments. He just now picks up a Brawler's Beat Stick, so he's got all of the Mace Tree that he's been able to pick up. At least I guess the one side, Titan's Bane, is still sitting over there patiently waiting, potentially probably not going to get picked up by him. But you do get the Divine Ruin as well to help shut down any of the healing from the Sylvanas. You've already been a part of 4 of the kills and doing a good job in it. I expect to see a little bit more of Sam over the next few minutes. We need to see Scream match it.
Jade Dragons on the Primal Fury, Solar Scarabs not on the Primal Fury. The turnaround has been big in this game, and now the largest gold lead we've had at 2.2K 17 minutes in is really not all that large, but it is the largest we've had. We were at 1,000 or less through the first 15 or so minutes of this game. Largely, you know, mainly towards even. But now the Jade Dragons playing with what they and their fans might consider to be a commanding lead. But if nothing else, the momentum here in this matchup. Scream at 1-4 has had a tough go of things here on this Nemesis. Sanford Soccer gets the pull onto Stewart, and there is way too much damage there for this Ho-Yi to have anything to say about it. A chance, though, for the Solar Scarabs on right in a 3 versus 2, but they took a lot of damage there, Gore, as well. That's unfortunate for Stewart. Not much you can do there.
Yeah, that's just the downside of being a carry and your beads being down. You've got to leap, but Wheelish is just going to eat you alive in those minutes. Like, you're either your one instinct to get away is the one thing that is going to pull you to your doom. And so, unfortunately, it's just never going to be enough for you. And this is maybe the biggest pivot, and you just pointed it out to me, so I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there. There's a Phantom. And the walls from Heroin, or not from Heroin, from FinoK are devastating sometimes. But I expected it to be Mike. He's gone for the
walls. I expected there to be a Phantom for. That's for sure.
Huh.
So Phantom is locked in, but for the support of the Solar Scarabs, Ankh important here for PBM. Stop some of that healing that the Solar Scarabs are going to want to be doing. Stun from FinoK out onto SOT. Tier 1 tower falls on the right side. Baronic ever scaling. That's an important trend to follow along with as well. Chronos Pendant, Divine Ruin, Soul Reaver. But Gore, Hurrywind has finished Bancrofts, Typhon's Fang, and now Rod of Tahuti. And so this 1, 2, and 2 Soul out of the mid lane might be doing a little bit more damage than 1, 2, and 2 would indicate.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers that back that has been helpful. Even though it's, what, I guess, yeah, you'd said it 4,700 player damage. With the Rod of Tahuti, as well as the other items really jumping the gun, all you need is one good Cataclysm setup.
I'm trying to wonder, sorry, it jumped out of me how Sam
Oh, wait, yeah, wait, how is he at the bottom? Wait, hold on,
what? He's the lowest player damage in the game, but...
all of that damage is into players to get kills, that's it.
They're all squishy, and there's not a lot of damage to be done. This is a big moment in this game, Gore. 19 minutes in, a clean Fire Giant for the Jade Dragons. Whether that was a call for the Scarabs just not to compete for it, or they didn't realize it was happening, the result is still the same, and it's a sub-20-minute Fire Giant for all 5 members of the Jade Dragons.
And a really good call for them as well. I mean, you've got a couple of buffs that you need to scoop up. This is the best time to do it. You've got 3.5 minutes before you have to worry about this Fire Giant disappearing. You've already got all the Tier 1 towers down as well. No neutral objectives remain on the middle of the map except for the Draugr. And so, unless the Scarabs go and grab that, and even if they do, you've got Fire Giant, so hopefully that makes up for it. You're going to be able to get aggressive. A good chunk of change sits. 4,500 gold in the form of all 3 of these Tier 2s, but this could easily be a Phoenix with the way these fights have been going. At the same time, we might finally get to see the benefit of an Ankh versus a Phantom, or maybe the detriment for the Dragons of not having that, depending on how SOT plays around the Phoenix.
Let's switch it up.
Panda Cat is terrifying to me right now. He's 3-1-1.
Just in general.
Just in general,
Sometimes.
right? He's terrifying. He doesn't have the hoodie on. He's not hoodie Panda Cat today, but he's sure playing like it. His character's got a hoodie on, so maybe that counts in the same conversation. Stewart a couple of times has just been chosen, right? I always kind of word it like that. He's just been chosen to die a couple times. And while, you know, a great, still good opportunity for Stewart to have an impact on these fights. You got Crusher, you got Odibo, you got Chin Size. Tier 2 in the Transcendence tree there. What is that? Charged Morning Star is the name of the Tier 2 item, I think?
Yeah, I think so.
So you'll have some damage online if you're Stewart. But with a Heartseeker for Panda Cat, I don't think I'm overextending by saying to match the pressure and the damage that Panda Cat's going to have in these fights, Stewart's going to be hard-pressed to do so.
Yeah, and he's just been a victim of circumstance at this point. Not a lot he can do, but FinoK gets pulled back in.
Into the ultimate. Actually, 2 ultimates going to FinoK, and then a stun on the back end. He is knocked up to all hell, but he has not been killed off. Great cage from SOT. It's the jump on out from a couple members of the Jade Dragons. Hurrywind drops the hammer on the backline, and it's Inbound who falls. Panda Cat adds another, and it's Stewart who falls second. It's a roll on through from PBM. Scream running away as best as he can. Mike doesn't have the damage. There's still a tower in mid here, fellas. We got to go back for that.
And they're low, but they have a minion wave and Fire Giant helping them out a little bit here to make sure they stay up and alive. No Aussie, so just in-hand healing from Panda Cat if he goes in the X form, and he's not getting a lot of it right now.
Panda Cat is just vibing in the back. Final K blinks forward, looks for the stun, gets the stun. On the SOT, the health bar's low, though. Panda Cat has to use the Aegis. It's a leap on out, and Panda survives. Polar Bear Mike walks out as well. It's huge turnaround from Final K, and the Jade Dragons have got the damage. Hurrywind's got the double kill. The Jade Dragons running away with game 3. Unreal from the Dragons.
I mean, you get the Phoenix. You are in control. If you had just slightly more health on your side right now, this would be an end game. You would absolutely be able to control that.
The Scarabs do it to us again. Look, the Titan stands, but you're on a 10,000 gold deficit with no Phoenix in the mid lane. Look.
You're going to say that. I'm going to have to. Every word you're saying right now, I have to then make it sound like the Scarabs can fight back. So
they can't. No, I mean, absolutely. Look, this is where the intangibles come in, kind of that never give up. We still got a chance style of attitude from the Solar Scarabs. Yeah, never give up, never stop gaming.
And we have to be very careful, or else Rain Day will yell at us.
That's right, he might. No, he wouldn't. He would never yell at us.
He'd just tag us on Twitter and be like,
right.
yo, stop.
Royalty checks, please. Now, this is a Solar Scarabs team. In moments like this, still will show up. They still will fight. But this game has slowly slipped away. It was so close for so long. And the Jade Dragons, Gore, they just make too many plays. This is a Jade Dragons team that just makes too many individual highlight reel plays. Yeah. And they've had a whole slew of them here in Game 3.
And admittedly, only getting one Phoenix is maybe, well, not worst case scenario, not best case scenario overall. So I think you do a good job if you're the Scarabs of diminishing what that Fire Giant could have been. You only lose one Phoenix. The fight around that Phoenix speaks wonders, I think, more of the Dragon's control. But ultimately, map state, you're not crying as hard as you could. I looked up and then immediately saw 6 towers standing on the other side. I am not happy if I'm the Scarabs right now.
No.
There is not a lot that you're capable of doing outside of your base unless you get a big fight.
Yep.
The Fire Giant's going to be coming up soon. You've got Tiamat minions pushing on left. You just lost your last tower, though. And you are in a very awkward predicament where most of your life depends on, or at least the set depends on, this defense.
Here's the game goes on checklist.
Yeah. Titans up.
Titans up. That's it. That's
the
checklist for the Solar Scarabs.
Mid lane, fire minions are pretty easily handled.
I would argue.
And they've got pressure on left.
That's right. And so of all the Phoenixes that could be gone, and yeah, there's no world where you're competing for this Fire Giant if you're the Solar Scarabs. Of all the Phoenixes that could be down, mid lane feels okay, especially on base defense moments like this. You know, you can easily bounce back and forth between mid and right or left. Jade Dragons could split up, send one fully on over to left, keep all 5 over here on right. Polar Bear Mike's just going to roll right on in. Phoenix defense time to save the game, save the set for the Solar Scarabs.
I mean, this is where things become a huge herald for them. We'll have to watch. I'm keeping my eyes on SOT and on inbound because they're going to make the plays.
Look at Final K on left. He's got Blink and Thorns. At the drop of a hat, this Cabrakan will find his way into the back line. Out of SOT, resets that Blink. Bird Bomb is now down. Polar Bear Mike walking forward. One knockup is all Sanford Soccer needs to start off this base siege. Will it be here? There's a stun onto inbound. And my God, the tree is missing before my eyes. Sanford Soccer, Final K, 1-2 punch in the back line. Hurrywind's diving Baronic in the hopes of the Solar Scarabs starting to fade away here in Game 3. SOT and Scream, the last 2 alive. The 5-2 and 1 Odin, the 1-5 Nemesis will not stand a chance. They pushed us to another Game 3. But on another occasion, the top team will come out on top. The Jade Dragons take it in 3.
Hey, now look, they're just playing with their food that is left. Yeah, that's the full-on deicide, and that is exactly what they need. You know what? I'm torn between the true analysis. I will say the tree fell really fast. Uller has 2 axes. Okay, got it out of my system. That is just good engage overall from the Dragons. I think the way that they're able to get as aggressive as they do under that Phoenix, and that showcases the strengths of a Soul plus an Uller. Every second or two, Micah's stepping in, taking a couple shots, stepping back. But each time he steps in, he's got someone, either Panda or Hurriwan, stepping in with him, throwing some autos, chipping that thing down, and it made things a lot easier for the Dragons in burning down the Phoenix, but also getting the engage for the fight.
Panda and Uller specifically trickling into do not let play territory. I think, the number of plays that Panda Cat turned around, bordering on unacceptable throughout this set. You have to feel for the Solar Scarabs. You push another top half of the league team to 3 games, fall just short. The Jade Dragons, they come up big here in Game 3. They win the important ones, 1 and 3. They take the set over the Solar Scarabs. We'll head to a break, and then the desk will be back to break it down.
Time initiating. How about a 3-man knockup from the Yorm?
Hey there, SMITE fans, Aggro here. Look, every single year, the SPL just keeps getting better. Season 7 was incredible, and in Season 8, I'm sure our players are going to take their game to the next level. But in order to do that, they're going to need the best gear they can get their hands on. And that's why I'm so excited to announce the title sponsor for Season 8 of the SPL is Alienware. Yeah, that Alienware. Our players are getting the best of the best in computer gaming. These Alienware Aurora Ryzen Edition PC setups are insane. Not only will these be the PCs that the players will compete on once we are in studio, but Alienware is also providing one for each player at their home setup to make sure their practice is as good as possible. Now let's get down to brass tacks. The specs on these Alienware Aurora Ryzen Edition desktops are amazing. An AMD Ryzen 9 16-core processor.
That's a lot of cores.
That's plenty of processing power.
That's a lot. Plenty of cores. If you want to stream, this is the way to go.
I know a lot about my cores, so. I mean, Pilates, right?
64 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM.
What? Is that true?
That is true.
I mean, this thing has 64 gigs of DDR4 RAM.
Which you can do literally anything with.
Literally anything.
I've never had more than 16 gigs.
That's quadruple the amount I have at home.
And one of the hottest commodities in the PC world, an NVIDIA GeForce 3090 graphics card.
Insane how much better this is than what I have.
The best graphics you really need, Ultra, of course.
Content's gonna look good.
And what's the point of all the power if you can't see it? Players will also be using the Alienware 25-inch 240 Hz monitors.
Man, when I load into scrims with this bad boy, I'm gonna feed so hard. And it's gonna be in perfect picture quality.
We are so excited to be partnering with Alienware for Season 8 of the SMITE Pro League. And the best part is, this VIP treatment, it's not just for the pros. You too can get the best possible SMITE experience. Just go to smitegame.com/Alienware and use code SMITEAW to get special discounts on some of Alienware's best products. Thanks again to Alienware. Make sure you're following them on Twitter and Instagram. That's at Alienware on both platforms. And you can join their community at alienwarearena.com.
Welcome back to the SMITE Pro League desk one final time, powered by our title sponsor, Alienware. Make sure to give them a follow on all of their social media on Twitter and Instagram at Alienware. And be sure to go to smitegame.com/Alienware so you can get the scoop on all of the latest gear that the pros are playing on, not just at home, but here in the studio. It's helping them get some big performance. The Ryzen R10 desktop, the 25-inch 240 Hz gaming monitor, all that available to you and to everybody else that you want to. SmiteGame.com/Alienware. Use code SMITEAW. That way you can get the inside scoop on it. Thank you so much, Alienware, for being the title sponsor here in Season 8 of the SMITE Pro League. Game number 3 comes down to the wire, but it's ultimately the Jade Dragons who come out on top. A good fight by the Solar Scarabs through and through, but the Jade Dragons come out on top in another Game 3 upset here against the Solar Scarabs.
I will meet you in that it was an incredibly fun match to watch. Down to the wire, I'm not sure about all that. 14,000-ish gold at the end of that game separating these two teams, but it really was a back-and-forth fight between this match. I mean, there was a ton of 2v1 turnarounds, 3v1s, all sorts of high-octane plays. But at the end of the day, the Jade Dragons just felt like they were a little bit more in control, especially around these rotations into the team fights. It felt like more often than not, they had the numbers advantage, and especially around their ADC, man. This was some Panda Cat diff.
Yeah, this is just a game, and I think Dave was right to bring it up at the end. It might be getting to dangerous territories to let Panda Cat on this Uller, even PBM. A little late on that rotation still. The fact that Panda's able to 2v1 the opposition on this god. Even Final K on the opposite side of the map. A little bit of early struggle, but late game, just a whole lot of damage coming from this Cabrakan. 10k in his pocket just here in game number 3. I think side lane, I'm not going to say side lane diff, but side lanes did a lot here in game number 3 for the Dragons.
They did, man. This Cabrakan was so annoying to deal with. It just felt like if he saw somebody, he was running at him, stun, Tremor, walls, just so good at the game is Final K. I wish one day I'd be able to play as well as he does. And that's the statement. Period. Put a period on that.
I'd like to play as half as good as probably any of these guys out here, but Final K on this Cabrakan doing some good work. 10,000 damage. Panda Cat nearly 18,000 on this Uller. Yeah, no,
Nothing on Final K.
I'm gonna take a step. I'm gonna go even further than what Dave was saying. Might be treading that dangerous territory. I'm just gonna say this: do not give Panda Cat Uller. There's no maybe we shouldn't. There's no maybe if we gotta go back and forth. No. Stop giving this guy Uller because he showed us in game number 3 just how dangerous this guy. I mean, he eliminated Bobby. That was an assassination under his own tower. Bobby did not get a chance to play Smite in that last team fight.
Simple arithmetic, J-Mac. When you've got a player as good as Panda Cat and when you've got a god as strong as Uller, you can't add them up. But you know what, man? I'm not concerned with Breznov right now. I'm talking about the real star of the show. You got to put some respect on Final K's name.
We'll put some respect on Final K's name by going ahead and talking to him in our post-game interview. We've got Dave standing by to talk to the man himself.
Mifflin is unreal because Mifflin's the first one. The moment we're back in the green room or whatever, he's talking nothing but crap about you, and so you get him on the desk now, and you're sitting right here in the same room as him, and suddenly Final K is the greatest player of all time. No, Final K does join me, and you did have a great set there, Fino, and you get to play kind of a wide variety of gods. You get the Cabrakan, Nike, and Zhang Kui in game 1.
That's right.
You feel like solo lane's in a spot at the moment where wide variety of gods are viable?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's like constant changes every patch to like the starter items and stuff, and that usually dictates a lot of the meta and everything. Even next patch, a lot of things are going to change with like the what is it, warding seagull or seagull as I like to call it, like a bird. But
that was better than Mifflin's hand sanitizer.
That's
joke,
true,
by the way. I'm not telling him the joke. I don't know if you can hear Miff. He's very sad about it. To the outside viewer, it felt like there was just a lot of kind of chaos, but controlled chaos, calculated chaos on the solo lane side of the map here this game. Did you feel like there was more action than usual in games 2 and 3, maybe specifically than you're used to, or about average for you?
I think it was a little bit more. That was more of a accurate description of like how scrims go,
sure.
Or accurate depiction maybe. We even said it, I think, in the middle of the game. It was like, this is an arena right now.
Right.
I think it's just kind of to be expected when you have like 2 hard-to-kill solo laners. Like Kraken's gonna be pretty hard to kill, and Odin's obviously very hard with his shield and everything. So, yeah, I mean, and then game 2 was also like we had 2 early deaths. I died in lane, so it literally just destroyed me. I'm gonna blame my teammates on that one. I can figure out a way. Yeah, I can figure out a way, but yeah, there's definitely some arena games, but they were fun. I had fun playing them.
It was a lot of fun to watch as well. Kind of final thoughts from you here, Fine. Okay, a couple. If you're going off Phase 2 standings, top 4 matchups for you guys in your upcoming sets. What's the focus for the Jade Dragons down the stretch here? What are you guys working on after a set like today?
Well, hopefully cleaning some stuff up. I mean, like I said before, there's like a lot of changes that are constantly put in the game, and we still have a while before like Worlds, and we do want to finish top 2. It's very important in this phase specifically, or this split phase. I don't know.
Same idea.
Yeah. So we're just gonna keep working on our things and keep figuring out our identity when it comes to like drafts, and even just like, especially lately, there's been a lot of teams F6 and scrims pretty early, and that's kind of been pissing us off. So we
against you, right?
Like, yeah, like they're F16 because we're beating them too early. I don't know, but so yeah, we want to get some late game practice in because we know by the time like Worlds comes around, like games are going to slow down. So
absolutely, lots of fun to watch you guys play. One of the most dangerous teams in the league. Thanks for sitting down with me, Fine. Okay, congrats on your win. We'll go back to the desk to round out the day.
Thank you so much. I wants to see a lot more of that late game, though. When you're having an early game performance like that, I mean, who cares about the late game if you're able to punch it down in 25 minutes or less, just about consistently throughout this set and throughout some of their other games. Jade Dragons come out with a big win here over the Solar Scarabs. Still unsuccessful in finding their first win of the phase. They've still got a few more to go and a few more games up here. Let's take a look at the schedule to see what's left for the rest of the week. I mean, we had a double in-studio header. Surely we still have some more Smite. In fact, we do. Solar Scarabs have another chance tomorrow up against the Valhalla Valkyries to try and find a win. Same for the Valkyries, looking to find their first win of the season. And then we'll close out the weekend with the Camelot Kings and the Oni Warriors. With that game all said and done, the standings change up just a little bit here. Lattice Leviathans with their win earlier today. They still remain at the top, undefeated 4-0. Jade Dragons 3-1, tied with the Tartarus Titans, but just slightly ahead of them because of all that plus-minus. The Olympus Bolts and the Kings will share their spot down to 4th, 5th seed. The Kings with the match tomorrow, though, they can try and bump themselves up. And then the Warriors, Scarabs, and Valhallas round up the bottom end of the standings.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one. Anytime I get to see the Solar Scarabs and the Valhalla Valkyries play against each other, it always is a treat. I mean, sure, battle of the bottom to be fair, but it is really exciting matches. The Valhalla Valkyries may be one of the most unique teams inside of the league with their drafts and how they like to play the game, and the Solar Scarabs consistently and constantly getting better week in and week out means that almost always going to be a treat to watch a set like that.
We've been seeing a lot of improvement out of the Warriors, so their matchup against the Kings could be a big one. So we'll see how that all breaks out, but that's all going to be starting up tomorrow at 1 p.m. EST, so you're going to want to be back here to catch up on more of the SPL action. Until then, from all of us here on production, the casters, and everyone else behind the scene, thank you all for showing up, and we'll see you all tomorrow.